So now that recording is in progress, hello, good morning, everyone. 1 second. You give me the sign.
Okay, now, yeah.
Now it's good. Now we're good. Okay, so bear with us. This is the first in-person event in a long time. So good morning, everyone. My name is Tamás Kádár, and I'm one of the co-directors of Equinet, the European Network of Equality Bodies. It is my pleasure to welcome everyone, both in person and online, to this conference on equality bodies supporting equality planning. I am going to just give a very, very quick introduction. So I'll ask Sophie to already click to the next slide. And hope it's going to work. So you have all received our safer space policy, but I also would like to point out it is very important for us that in all our events, conferences, meetings, we create a safe space where everyone can feel welcome and comfortable to share their ideas and to contribute and meaningfully engage with others. And you see a couple of points which I think we should all keep in mind: engaging respectfully and peacefully, using inclusive language, respecting people's identities and pronouns, being mindful of the group dynamics, asking for consent before sharing anything, especially on social media, and of course also share the responsibility to look out for each other. If there is any problem, then you can also check the safer space policy, and there are trust persons mentioned there. You can also turn to anyone from the Equinet team. On the next slide, you will see the agenda, which I, of course, will not go through, but you see that we are starting now with a couple of minutes delay. Apologies for that. And we will have essentially 4 sessions, plus a welcome and opening, even though it just shows 3 sessions. So it's just to trick you. But we will have the welcome and then 4 sessions where we will substantively go into the details of what is equality planning, why is it important, and what are the experiences of equality bodies and other actors, other invitees with this very important tool in the equality toolbox. On the next slide, you will see that it is possible, of course, for everyone, and we would like to ask everyone to participate meaningfully and very actively. Of course, for those in person here, it's going to be easier, but we would like to assure everyone also sitting in front of the screens that it is going to be possible. We are very interested in receiving your questions. So on the Zoom webinar that you have joined, there is a questions and answers feature. You can put in your question, and then a selection of questions will be read out to the panelists for them to answer those. And if they cannot be answered right then and right now, then you will receive a written response after the conference. So with that very short technical introduction, it is my pleasure to ask our panel of speakers for the welcome session. And first, I would like to give the floor to Lawrence Bond, who is the chair of Equinet and also the director of the Irish Human Rights and Equality Commission. Lawrence is joining us online, so you will see him on the screen, and I will disappear at everyone's joy.
Good morning, everybody. And not at all, Tamás. It's quite sad to see you disappear there. So I'm delighted that you could all join us today for our conference on equality planning. Both those of you like myself online and those there in the room in Lisbon. As Tamás said, my name is Lawrence Bond, and I'm speaking to you today in my dual capacity as both the director of the Irish Human Rights and Equality Commission, and I'm speaking from Dublin, our offices now, but also particularly here this morning as chair of the executive board of Equinet, the European network of national equality bodies. And I suppose my main job here today is on behalf of Equinet to really warmly welcome you all to the conference today. And we're really delighted you've been able to join us, which is co-organized by Equinet, but also with our two of our Portuguese equality body members, the High Commission for Migration and the Commission for Citizenship and Gender Equality. And just to say warm thanks to our colleagues for this joint event. Today's event will focus on the role equality bodies play in supporting equality planning by public bodies and private sector actors. And the aim of the conference is to raise awareness and use of this important tool. Equality planning is a concept that holds significant potential for promoting and implementing equality and diversity across a range of fields of life and across the different protected grounds. And it's an area where Equinet and its members have useful experience and expertise to share. Equinet, as you may know, is a membership network that brings together 47 organizations from across Europe, which are empowered to counteract discrimination as national equality bodies across a range of grounds, including age, disability, gender, race or ethnic origin, religion or belief, and sexual orientation. We are joined by many representatives of national equality bodies today who will share their experiences of promoting and supporting equality planning, including creating equality plans within their own organizations, as well as their work with national diversity charters on diversity and inclusion plans in employment. In our own organization, my own organization here, the Irish Human Rights and Equality Commission, in Ireland, there's a statutory obligation on public bodies to take account of equality and human rights, essentially in their strategic planning. And IREC has a particular role to support them and to some extent to hold them to account in doing that. I'm not going to speak too much about that now, except to mention that I think one of the key pieces we see in that area of our work, it is about organizational change and organizational development. And for equality bodies, that's quite different in some ways. Obviously, it overlaps, but the kind of skills and insights we need are quite different than, you know, legal change, for example, or individual redress. So it is an area where we need to develop particular competencies and particular expertise in order to transform organizations. But the key benefit of being able to do that is that practices of equality and diversity become embedded in the daily life of key organizations, such that it's not a question of only being able to respond to a problem when it occurs, but that you're proactively trying to anticipate problems and avoid them. And I think that's the key benefit of a focus on equality planning in our experience, and I look forward to hearing the experiences of other bodies here today around that area. We're also very excited to be joined here today by colleagues from the European Commission, including the chair of the Commission's Task Force on Equality, Elizabeth Werner, who will speak about the work that the task force has been doing in this field. And we warmly welcome the emphasis that the Commission has placed on equality and discrimination under its current mandate. And we're very happy that they share our belief in the importance of effective equality planning. We'll hear from organizations from both the public and private sector today that have made equality plans. We'll learn about the benefits they have seen, but also about the challenges they have faced. And as well, we'll learn about the importance of effective cooperation. We hope that you will find this conference to be a useful discussion of the great potential this equality mainstreaming tool presents as a way to tackle the various challenges we're facing across the region now, and to realize substantive equality, leaving no one behind. Equality plans can be a powerful way for public and private organizations to ensure that their internal and external policies and practices are inclusive and fair. However, simply making an equality plan is not enough. This shouldn't be a tick box exercise, but an evolving process of assessment, evaluation, and growth. We'll hear today how, just as it's important to take equality into account in all policy and decision-making across all fields of life, So we must also consider how to ensure that equality plans are used and implemented in the most effective and impactful way. So again, just to warmly welcome you here today and to look forward to our engagement on these important issues. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lawrence, for this nice introduction. And now it is my pleasure to hand over to Sandra Ribeiro, who is the president of the Portuguese Commission for Citizenship and Gender Equality. Also, at one point, she was a member of the Equinet board. So, Sandra, please, the floor is yours. Okay. And thank you very much for co-organizing this event with us.
Good morning to all. It's so nice to me to be here. Of course, this is my city that I would love to share with you, but especially because it's so nice to see so many faces that people that been with me for so long time. Some years ago, when I belonged to the board of Equinet, and it was such a fantastic times, and I always remember that because it skilled me a lot, not as only as a person, but as a professional as well. I learned a lot at that time. So thank you so much, and I'm so happy that I'm back in a way. So thank you for that. And of course, in the behalf of the Portuguese Commission for Citizenship and Gender Equality, and in my name, it is really an honor to have an Equinet rendezvous here in our city. Today, more and more member states are approving equality and non-discrimination acts with provisions to all central and local governments authorities to telling them that they should draw equality plans. More and more, the promotion of the equality is especially important in college and schools and in social services and health and care organizations. Equality planning is an ahead to good governance and a good administration, staff development, and development of services. And more is recommended that organizations that are not under a legal obligation to draw as well, they do, and they should do anyway. So the primary objective of this conference is, as we can read on the concept, is to discuss the role of equality bodies in supporting equality planning by public and private actors, and encouraging wider and more effective use of this concept. And now it's difficult to me to turn the page. Right. So that's why that this meeting here make all the sense, because national equality bodies play really a crucial role on the challenging the discrimination and promoting equality across Europe, providing leadership on the core of UA values of equality and defending the right to non-discrimination. We as mechanisms, body mechanisms, equality bodies, we are necessary to do so, to do the changing that we need. So if not them, if not these services, who are in a better position to support national authorities, enterprises, and social partners to design a better equality plan in all Europe. So this is our work. This is the national equality bodies have a great task on their hands, which is to help and to encourage all of the member states to have more equality plans everywhere. So let's work. That's for what you are here today, and have enjoy your working day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sandra, for this warm welcome to your city. And again, thanks a lot for co-organizing this event with us. And thanks a lot, of course, to your colleagues who helped us a lot in organizing it. And our next speaker in this welcome session is José Reis, who is a member of the management board of the High Commission for Migration, also in Portugal, and he's also going to welcome us. His organization, of course, is also a co-organizer, and thank you very much for co-organizing this with us.
Thank you very much. Good morning to all, and thank you very much for inviting us. And it is a real pleasure to be here and to work with all of you, and it's important to be here because this theme of equality is very important, and I speak in all the areas that includes the equality. So it's very difficult to change it. I confirm. I confirm. Right now, we celebrate in the month of May the European Union's Diversity Month, recognizing equality and diversity as a top priority of the European Commission to fight discrimination and push for more equal societies. Equality and diversity are also part of the core principle of the High Commission for Migration that I represent right now, which is probably the most diverse public administration institution. As you see, there is, in terms of the first and second generation, and is promoting entities on the Portuguese Charter of Diversity launched in 2016. The High Commission is a public institute under the direct supervision of the President of the Council of Ministers, which is have a transversal nature, reflects the political commitment in matters of migration and the promoting of integrations and migrants, including refugees and Roma communities. This institute works globally for the promotion and implementation of human rights, assuming an intercultural and intersectional approach. Right now, we have currently 4 national support centers, north to south of Portugal, and 146 local centers in partnership with municipalities, civil society organizations, and universities to help all the migrants and all the people we are in difficult conditions to improve their integration in the country. I will not speak very long, but I think it's important to tell you that the High Commission, we by ourselves, we improve and implement a plan for equality, but because we think it's important to make an example. So internally, we start to do that work with our colleagues, and we are, when I look, I think it was very important because the work that we do as a public institution must be do it in internal way too. All our staff must be in line with the work that we do. So for us, it's very important to know that all the people who work with us are doing and are believing in the work. So that's why I'm here to tell in the first person that the High Commission for Migration is fully committed with these matters. The other thing I think is important to say is that Portugal last year launched the first plan against racism and discrimination. And we have the pleasure to listen to Tamens in one of the discussion groups. It was a very interesting process. I had the honor to be involved in, and that is something that I would like to share it here too. So I know that we need to think, to know how to do better, and I'm pretty sure that this morning will be very fruitful and many good ideas will come. So thank you all, and I hope it will be a good day.
Thank you very much, Jose, for this nice opening and welcome, and also reminding, of course, everyone that internal processes are just as important, not just to preach about equality, but also internalize it and have internal processes and strategies. So moving on, and we are incredibly almost on time. Moving on, you can see on your agenda the name of Elisabeth Werner, who is Deputy Secretary General in the European Commission. But unfortunately, we just got the news an hour ago that she won't be able to join us. However, we are really happy to welcome welcome in this circle as speaker Catherine Renard, who is the head of the Secretariat of the European Commission's Task Force on Equality. And I think it's a really nice lead in to her intervention, because we do know that the Commission, especially in this College of Commissioners, really is committed to union of equality, and both in the internal sense and also in Commission policies, and encouraging also national policies, member state policies. So Ms. Renard, the floor is yours. Thank you very much for joining us from Brussels, I think.
Yes, good morning, everybody, and thank you very much for this nice words, and sincere apologies for the absence of Elizabeth, which was indeed very last minute, and I will do my best to replace her now. As you just said, Elizabeth is the chair of the task force, but this task force is supported by a secretariat, which is a small team, wonderful and very competent, and I have the chance to lead this team and to work very closely with Elizabeth, of course. So I would like to thank you very much for inviting the Commission to this conference, and it's very nice to see you all in Portugal in this room. When the first ever European Commissioner for Equality, Mrs. Dalli, participated in the conference organized by Equinet in November last year, she recalled that President von der Leyen made equality for all and equality in all of its senses one of the major priorities of her Commission. And she underlined that this Commission is working more than ever towards equality, effective equality mainstreaming. And I can assure you that the chair of the Commission's Internal Task Force on Equality strives to ensure that this work is successful and that we make constant progress towards a union of equality. Constant progress, however, requires that equality mainstreaming forms an integral part of our work. It should sit coherently and easily within the policy-making cycle and not be an ad hoc or last-minute exercise. It involves integrating an equality perspective into every stage of the policy cycle, meaning the preparation, design, implementation, monitoring, and evaluation of policies, regulatory measures, and funding programs. It is our firm belief here in the Commission, together with Elizabeth, that when properly implemented, equality mainstreaming can be a transformative approach with great potential for change. And we are therefore happy that also Equinet is committed to promoting equality mainstreaming. There is no doubt that European, national, regional, and local actors, be they public or private, should address inequalities and discrimination in their policies, legislation, and funding so that we can build fairer and more equal societies. But the question is, how can public and private organizations step up their efforts to do that? Are equality plans useful tools to support this process? And what are the preconditions for effective equality plans? Equinet's forthcoming compendium on good practices with equality planning will surely be a source of inspiration and insight for all of you. But let me also share our thoughts here in the Commission and our own experiences. In the Commission, we have reinforced important preconditions for effective mainstreaming. In late 2019, the Commission set up this task force that we already referred to on equality, supporting Commissioner Dalli in her work. This is a network comprising senior and expert officials drawn from all Commission departments, with no exception, as well as the European External Action Service. The designated role of the task force on equality is to ensure that equality considerations are integrated in all our activities. The key drivers of this task force are equality coordinators, appointed in all Commission departments. They represent their respective department in the network, providing an interface with the task force secretariat which is also, like the chair, located in the Secretariat General of the Commission. Effective equality mainstreaming is an ambitious objective in every organization. In our view, the key is to entrench it deeply in the functioning of an organization. Depending on where an organization finds itself on this journey, the challenges for achieving lasting and structural change vary. For all organizations, including the Commission, change requires leadership, commitment, as well as human and financial resources. It needs attention throughout the policy cycle, communication, and capacity building, such as training for staff. Importantly, it also requires clear objectives and a strategy or a plan setting out how to reach these objectives. In the Commission, all Directorates General were strongly encouraged to develop internal equality mainstreaming work plans prepared by the equality coordinators and endorsed by senior management. The majority of the work plans were elaborated in the course of last year. They translate the broad equality policy objectives at EU level set out in our Union of Equality strategies to the specific work and particular context of Directorates General, be they working on transport, climate, education, regional policy, or any other EU policy. These plans, they set out equality challenges identified in a particular sector and the steps and timelines for bringing about change. They identify those responsible for implementation and include provisions for monitoring and reporting, including through indicators and data where possible. I have to say that so far our experience is very positive. First, the preparation of such plans is instrumental in raising awareness about equality and non-discrimination internally, ensuring commitment and building capacity. Many services in the Commission set up equality working groups or networks to drive, develop, and monitor the work together with the equality coordinators. Second, equality mainstreaming work plans create also common goals, responsibility, and accountability, also by senior management, and they provide an internal standard against which progress can be assessed. And third, very importantly, the large majority of these plans are articulated around two strands. What we call an external dimension, focusing on equality in EU policies, legislation, and funding, and an internal dimension, focusing on diversity and inclusion among staff, capacity building, and fostering a culture of inclusiveness in the different services. Looking beyond the Commission, we are convinced that equality bodies can play an important role in promoting the use of equality planning in public and private organizations. And this conference today will provide participants with important insight and inspiration. As you are aware, the approach of the equality directives agreed at EU level is mainly reactive. They ensure that victims of discrimination will be properly assisted after discrimination has taken place. This is, of course, of tremendous importance, but it is only one side of the coin. It is equally crucial to prevent discrimination from happening in the first place. And here, equality bodies have a lot of potential, including by promoting the use of equality planning. However, equality bodies need support so that they are able to carry out their important work. The application report of the Racial Equality Directive and the Employment Equality Directive that the Commission published in March last year highlighted a number of challenges to the functioning of equality bodies, and in particular concerning their independence, and resources. This conference comes at a very timely moment. We are in the Commission currently preparing a legislative initiative on standards for equality bodies with the objective to adopt a proposal in the third quarter of 2022. I would like here to take this opportunity to very much thank Equinet for its important contributions to the preparation of this initiative. I would like now to very much thank you for your attention. I hope I was not too long. And let me assure you that myself and the chair of the task force as well, of course, we are very keen to cooperate further with you to develop the EU equality agenda. Equinet is clearly an ally of the Commission in this area, and we hope really to keep our very good cooperation. So thank you very much, and I wish you a very fruitful discussion.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ms. Renard. Indeed, I think we are allies, and also to just reciprocate, we are very thankful to the Commission for launching this initiative. And it is, of course, very important to ensure that equality bodies can do their job as well as their potential suggests. After this nice welcome and opening salvo of presentations, it is my pleasure now to hand over to our host for today, for the rest of the conference, Ketevan Shubashvili from the Public Defender of Georgia. And she will lead us through the rest of the program, starting by introducing the Equality Mainstreaming Cluster and also our first thoughts and experiences about equality planning. So Ketevan, the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tamas. Good morning, everyone. I'm Ketevan Shubashvili, and I have the privilege to host today's conference. But first, I would like to give a short overview about the work that has led to this event. And today, I will speaking in my dual capacity as the head of Equality Department at the Office of Public Defender of Georgia, and as a moderator of the Equinet Cluster on Equality Mainstreaming. This conference is part of the work of the cluster, and so I'll start by giving a short overview of what cluster is and what the work has been done so far. In this part of the conference, Vera Fonseca from High Commission of Migration of Portugal and myself will discuss the importance and benefits of adopting and creating equality plans, relevant responsible persons engaged in the process of creating, implementing and monitoring of this process, and overall steps of creating equality plans. Well, starting from the cluster, which is an annual, multi-annual members-led project, which was established last year to bring together equality bodies interested in equality mainstreaming. In its first year, the cluster focused on the use of equality duties and equality impact assessments as tools for mainstreaming equality. And now in its second year, the cluster is focusing on the role of equality bodies in supporting equality planning at the national level by public bodies and private sector actors. This follows from our discussions in cluster in 2021, where members discussed the use of and importance of equality plans to require business and public authorities to take into account and proactively respond to equality and diversity challenges in all actions and their organizations. Adopting and implementing an equality plan may be compulsory, which of course creates a link with the last year's topic, particularly with equality duties. Equality planning is a concept that holds significant potential for promoting and implementing equality and diversity across a range of fields of life and across different protected grounds. And it is an area where Equinet and its members have useful experience and expertise to share. Although equality plans are not specified in EU legislation, their importance as a tool for achieving equality can be seen, for example, in European Commission's inclusion of the concept in their commitment to lead by example in their internal selection and recruitment process, as outlined in their recent EU Disability Rights Strategy 2021-2030, and in the European Institute for Gender Equality, a plan for research organizations and higher education institutions. Our main output for 2022 will be a compendium of good practices on equality planning. And now, what are equality plans? In the survey, we also set out the cluster's working definition of what constitutes equality planning. We defined equality plan to mean a broad term intended to include other similar terms, such as, for example, diversity plans, integration plans, diversity charters, or equal opportunity plans and programs. Adopting an equality plan may be compulsory for public and private sector organizations, but it also may be a result of a voluntary decision by the organization, for example, as a result of signing a national diversity charter. It typically covers their functions as an employer, but it may also cover the functions as a provider of goods and services, understood broadly. Equality plans may be horizontal, covering all grounds or focusing on one or some grounds, for example, gender or disability equality plans. Equality plans usually make a diagnosis of the current situation in an organization, set out equality objectives, and clearly establish the strategies and practices to be adopted to achieve them. Our definition does not include national level action plans on equality, for example, national anti-racist action plans, as it focuses on plans developed by individual organizations only, with or without legal mandate to do so. It also does not include individual isolated measures, for example, a commitment to provide more parental leave than what's legally required, as they don't add up to a systemic plan. Equality plans typically contain concrete and accessible measures in order to ensure and enhance diversity and the effective equality of all employees, patients, students, customers, or users, goods and services on any protected ground of discrimination or their combination. The implementation of equality plans should be regularly monitored and evaluated, and equality bodies may play a statutory or voluntary role in this process, depending on their national legislation. To support work on equality plans, equality bodies can take many actions, either as a result of an explicit legal mandate or just based on their general mandate to promote equality. For example, equality bodies could adopt and implement an equality plan themselves for their own work and internal processes. Our next speaker, Vera Fonseca from High Commission for Migration from Portugal, will present their good practices on creating and implementing such an internal equality plan. Moving beyond their own internal processes, equality bodies can also give advice to individual organizations preparing equality plans, regardless of whether they have a legal duty or if it is a voluntary action on their part. Give advice on equality planning to employers, associations, or coordinators of national diversity charters. Monitor the implementation of equality plans. Evaluate the implementation and impact of equality plans, for example, in the equality body's annual report. Oblige organizations to adopt and implement equality plans or ask the courts to do so as a remedy in a discrimination case. We have found that there is a great variation across Europe regarding whether there is a legal duty to adopt an equality plan and where that duty exists, with which organizations must comply with it. Overall, we see that the legal duty to adopt an equality plan does not exist in most countries in Europe. However, there are some notable exceptions, including, for example, in Belgium, diversity plans are compulsory in the Brussels Regional Civil Service and in the Brussels Local Civil Service. However, diversity plans are voluntary for private sector employers located on the territory of the Brussels capital region. In Finland, employers have the duty to have an equality plan in place if they have over 30 employees. Education providers have the duty to promote equality, including having an equality plan. In Hungary, equal treatment law provides for an obligation on two duty bearers. All municipalities have to adopt a local equality opportunities plan for 5 years, as well as any public institution or state-owned companies who have more than 50 employees. In Portugal, for example, two types of organizations have a legal duty to adopt gender equality plans in the field of employment, the state business sector at national and local level, and listed companies. In Serbia, all employers with more than 50 employees must implement annual gender equality plans. And last but not least, in Spain, companies with 50 or more employees are obliged to negotiate, adopt, and register in a specific registry a gender equality plan. Even where the legal duty to adopt an equality plan does exist in a country, this does not always translate into effective implementation. Several equality bodies reported that the legal duty in their country was not clear and accurate enough, either for the duty bearers or to observe, or for the equality bodies to monitor. Several challenges in observing and monitoring the duty were noted by our members. For example, in some countries, the law does not stipulate clearly enough how assessment of equality plans should be carried out, and in others, it is not clear precisely which companies are covered. Furthermore, in some countries, it is the equality body that is mandated to monitor compliance with these laws, but other bodies such as Labor Inspectorate or other ministry. We can see from the examples shared by our members that the main focus of equality plans is gender, though some go beyond this and other grounds are are horizontal. Mostly, though not all, equality bodies lack an explicit mandate to be involved in monitoring the existence or implementation of equality plans by other organizations that must have one. However, despite the absence of an explicit legal provision to be involved in equality planning, many equality bodies have interpreted their mandate broadly to still be involved in this area, for example, by being signatories of diversity charters, providing advice or training to organizations, or commissioning research into relevant topics. In conclusion, we have found that equality plans can be a useful and necessary tool in realizing substantive equality, particularly in the workplace, in education settings, but only if they are properly understood and implemented. This requires adequate resources and knowledge within the organization responsible for the equality plan, as well as strong cooperation with relevant external actors, including equality bodies and national diversity charters, to benefit from their expertise. This is even more important given that diversity charters frequently encourage the adoption of equality plans, and equality bodies are often involved in the design and monitoring of such plans. Equality bodies can and do play an important role in supporting the public and private sector organizations' use of equality planning. However, for the process to be truly effective, there would be need for a clear, accurate legal duty at the national level for organizations to adopt equality plans, and this would need to be supported by appropriate methods of monitoring and sanctioning for non-compliance. Secondly, there needs to be an enhanced standards for the independence, powers, and resources of equality bodies that allow them to effectively contribute and to support the use of this tool. The compendium of good practices on equality planning will be finalized and published by the end of this year, and we will share it with all of you and hope it will be a very useful tool in your work as well. Next, I'm pleased to give the floor to Vera Fonseca from the Equinet's Portuguese equality body member, the High Commissioner for Migration. She will present the High Commissioner's good practice on creating and implementing their own internal equality plan. After Vera has presented, we will have our session 1 on equality bodies with speakers from equality bodies who will be sharing their experience in contributing in equality planning process. So Vera, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And good morning, everyone. It's a great pleasure to finally meet so many of you in person. And I'm very, very happy to be here and very grateful to be able to share our experience at the High Commission for Migration on equality planning. I don't know how we are going to work with the slides, but next slide. Next. So as was mentioned before, the High Commission for Migration is a public institute, has the mission to collaborate in definition, execution, and evaluation of public policies, cross-cutting and sectorial issues on the matter of migration, to integrate migrants, including refugees and the Roma communities, and to promote cultural and religious diversity. So we have here a lot of different aspects regarding equality. Next, please. Considering that since the end of the 20th century, at the global level, we've had a very high increase of migrant women across the world. And this is no different in Portugal. So between 2012 and 2020, we have more foreign women than men in Portugal. And at the moment, it's about 50-50%. But this was a clear indication that more adequate responses that would respond to the necessities of the people that were coming into Portugal needed to be done. So in 2019, the High Commission for Migration decided to create a project team on intersecting inequalities. The two main objectives of this project team was to mainstream gender in all the different areas of the Institute. So we have a lot of different areas. As our management board member was explaining, we work with children and youth, we work with Roma, with refugees, we work with the support of migrant associations, with the local level municipalities. So there's a lot of work to be done in different aspects. The other challenge that was given to the team was to design and implement activities in the promoting the UN's International Decade of People of African Descent. Next, please. Okay. So our first I'm going to give you just a short tour of what it was, our process in building this this plan. First, considering we had such different units and such different dimensions, we felt that we needed to create a working group on equality. So we designated one focal point from each of the different units to be part of this group so that we could together develop our work moving forward. It's also important to say that in March of 2020, we have a new management board. And this was important because, as you know, from the top, it also comes the priorities. And this allowed us to put into practice something that we had been thinking about, but hadn't had the opportunity to actually commit to. So then June 2020, we formalized the internal group. And of course, the objectives of the group were gender mainstreaming specifically. We started with gender because we felt that it was an important aspect to be included. And also because we knew that we had upcoming national commitments on non-discrimination that we also needed to respond to. So we were planning ahead so we could have responses here for commitments such as the UN's Convention on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination, but also the UN's Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, which we will have our session in the UN this June, but also within the framework of the Council of Europe. Next, please. So our first challenge was thinking about equality planning, and what you here in this session challenged me to think about was on, what is equality planning, who needs to be involved, how do you do it, and why is it important? And this is what I hope that at the end we can have a little bit more of a clue. Thank you. No, I'm not done. So the first challenge was the equality plan to be developed by the working group. And what we did is that we, instead of trying to invent the wheel, we tried to go to the instruments that already existed. And as we're talking about in the good practice, as far as the companies that had to implement in Portugal an equality plan, we contacted the Commission for Equality in Labor and Employment and asked them to support us in how to do this. How can we adapt these guidelines to our institute? So we first applied a self-diagnosis to the staff, as was recommended by the guide. And then we presented the proposal to the Commission for Equality in Labor and Employment. Okay. So the end result of the equality plan was included a brief characterization of the Public Institute. And this was very interesting because, in fact, we had done some characterization of the Institute, but never to this level. So considering all these characteristics that put a dimension of equality. So this was an interesting exercise internally as well. And the result was 66 measures in total. So the internal measures, which were very much focused on the improvement of staff working conditions, and it included things such as looking at our strategy, our mission and values, equality in work access, initial and continuous training, equality in working conditions, parental protection, family life balance, and prevention of harassment at work. And then the external measures, and what we meant by external was to look at our activities and services that we comply for the outside and to see how we can mainstream gender into those. Also to focus on collecting and monitoring data on sex disaggregated data, for example, capacity building for our staff and awareness raising, and looking at the ongoing projects and see how we can mainstream gender into those. Thanks. We developed throughout the process a monitoring instrument that was periodically updated by the different units. We also held various meetings with the working group to discuss the state of the art of the implementation of the plan, held bilateral meetings between the project team and the different units, and drafted an interim evaluation report, and had a final evaluation session with the Commission for Equality in Labor and Employment, and a SWOT evaluation exercise. So this was sort of our monitoring process. And what we came as a result, as far as the highlights of challenges and opportunities after this first experience, we'd highlight two sections, the part of communication and the part of implementation. And as far as challenges in implementation, in communication, it was challenging to make sure that all staff members were aware of the plan. So we have a vast number of staff, over 200, that are not only in Lisbon, not all in the same building, in different places in Portugal. And so how do we make sure that we reach everyone and everyone is aware of this commitment that we're doing, even though there's representation of all sectors involved? The other aspect was to maintain interest and motivation in the area of gender equality, considering that there's so much other things going on and there's so much pressure and priorities are changing, including those that we can't control, such COVID, for example, which was right in the mix as the plan became to be implemented, that it hit. And so we had to alter all our ways of working. So this was also a very big challenge. As far as opportunities in communication, it was very interesting to see how it started to make sense, the realization that gender equality actually has a direct impact in your day-to-day life. So as a worker, this could actually mean something directly to your life, and this was important to see. Also, it did raise the interest of people in this area. As far as implementation, I think the greatest opportunity was that it gave us a base to build on for the next plan. Like, we know this wasn't perfect. There were a lot of difficulties. There were a lot of different obstacles, but it gave us a very good base, not only as far as the plan, but also as far as instruments for monitoring and evaluation. Next, please. So now we're looking forward to our next plan. After the evaluation exercise, we have extended the duration. It's not just annual, but to be for 2 years, from 2022 to 2023. We are working on the improvement of the monitoring and evaluation tools, trying to better adapt the plan to the reality in the Institute, not to be so close to the guide that initially we looked at, and also adopt a more intersectional approach that goes beyond gender equality. So now that we have the spaces, and never forgetting that in all other characteristics, there are men and women, to adopt a more intersectional approach. And for this, we have been consulting with the International Labour Organization at the Lisbon office in the perspective of organizational transformation and to improve that. Next, please. So finally, this is our thoughts on our questions. So what is it for us? It's an organizational tool, an instrument to be able to to work better and improve our institute. Who do we need to work on it? All sectors. We need to have everyone involved. So top down and bottom up. It's very important to everyone to have this as part of their work and appropriate it. How to, I think, begin with existing tools and adapt them to the reality of your organizations at the national and international context as well, and partner up. Find people who have experience, organizations who already have work done, and learn. And why? Well, aside from being a national, European, and international recommendation, it promotes coherent and sustainable intervention inside an organization, guarantees that all units use the same instruments of reference, supports in systemizing and monitoring activities, and allows us to better know our activity, and promotes diversity in the workplace, and finally promotes better working conditions for staff, which I think is what we're all looking for. And thank you. I think that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very so much. It was very interesting, and I think those examples make it clearer what we mean under equality planning. And it was really powerful to share all these steps in details as to how your equality body has done and was engaged in equality planning, starting from creating of the plan, continuing with the monitoring and implementing of and covering all of this process. So next we can move to the first session that is about equality bodies' role in equality planning, and our next speakers will be sharing their experience regarding their support in equality planning by private and public actors, and they will also highlight the examples they have shared with us for the compendium that will be finalized by the end of the year. After this session, we will open the floor for questions and answers, and all in-person and online participants are welcome to participate in the discussion. So now I would like to give the floor to Anneli de Mateo, Assistant Deputy Director General from Institute of Women. So Anna, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Thanks to the organizers for the opportunity given to the Spanish Institute of Women for being here. I'm glad, very glad. So, well, as it has been said this morning, equality plans are key tools for achieving gender equality within the organizations. And we as equality body has a very important role to play in supporting equality planning. And we can do it in many different ways. We can support equality planning in private sector and in public sector. So now in this session, I'm going to focus in the private sector. And let me briefly introduce you how the Spanish regulation on gender equality plans and equal pay for the private sector is. So a royal decree adopted in 2019 that amended the gender equality law of 2007 stated that gradually until March 2022, companies with 50 or more employees will have to adopt, implement, and register a gender equality plan that should include pay audits and a post-evaluation with a gender perspective. But additionally, all the companies have to keep pay records of their wages, and complements of their employees. So the issue was that what was the role of the Institute of Women as an equality body in this regulation? Well, we were working together with the Ministry of Labor and with the social partners in the draft regulation of the Royal Decree 2017, and more specifically, I'm very hard with the two other decrees that have developed this regulation. The one 901 regulating gender equality plans and the recording in a public register, and 902 on equal pay between women and men. So we work in drafting and we participate in the negotiation. We were advising both the Ministry of Labor and the social partners and we had a very hard negotiation, but finally the test was adopted and agreed. And the issue is that this regulation included the scope of the quality plans, what companies should look at when assessing and making a previous diagnosis of what's the situation of gender equality in their company is, and how to do the process, how to negotiate with the workers' representative, how to do the monitoring and so on, in order to support companies and also to support workers' representatives and employers in general. The Institute of Women has a free technical advice service for all the stakeholders, but especially addressed to companies. And we have also a free online training through our Gender Equality Virtual School, in which we provide different kind of trainings of different levels on collective bargaining with a gender equality perspective, on gender planning, and so on. What do we provide and what do we do with this technical advice service? We support companies directly if they register in the service in how to design and how to do this prior assessment, how to do the gender equality plan, what they should look at, what kind of indicators they have to take into account, how they have to monitor the implementation, and how to do the evaluation. Also, companies can make occasional queries through this site's web and by phone or online. And we also provide, well, we have in the site web that you have in the slides, www.igualdadenlaempresa.es. We have a Q&A questions and answer section. We also provide different guidelines and tools, questionnaires on how to assess gender equality in companies, policy guidelines on inclusive communication, gender bias in recruitment and promotion processes. We also have an EU bulletin introduce news on regulations. There are, we also provide specific trainings apart of the ones that are in the virtual school. We also provide a specific face-to-face training for companies on gender bias in recruitment and promotions processes. It's true that after this new regulation was passed, the demand of this service has been more than double. What we can find, for instance, in this service and what we have recently developed after the regulation was passed last year, we published a guide to support companies in the implementation and monitoring of gender equality plans. The guide is accessible online and has different sections and parts. We try to guide companies face by face in which what are the steps that they should follow to implement, well, to design, negotiate, adopt, register, implement, monitor, and evaluate a gender equality plan. So you can find here the methodology and so on. Also in the site web, there are some short training videos explaining how to use the guide. We also develop, well, the guide was also consulted with the social partners. So it was the Institute of Women who did it, but it was consulted with the social partners. We also developed a pay record tool in collaboration with the Ministry of Labor and the social partners to support companies to do these pay records, because when the law was passed, the royal decree was passed, we receive a lot of queries asking how to do this. So what do we have to put in the record? It should contain only the basic salary or the complements, what kind of complements, how to disaggregate the data. So that's why we make a working group with the social partners, the ministry, and we develop this pay record tool. So the record includes information on all the worker on all of the workers of the company with an employment contract and an employment relationship, including part-time workers, fixed-term workers, workers that came or have been employed by that temporary agency, whatever. All the data are disaggregated by sex and by professional category. So companies with this pay record tool promote, so the idea is to promote transparency, and also it's like a preliminary tool that could show if there is any discrimination, a sex gender pay discrimination. And we are glad to say that a few weeks ago, we had in Spain the first sentence that was based in this pay record tool. So a judge considered that in a company there has been a pay discrimination, and the proof was the pay record tool. And another tool that was published like 1 month ago was the job assessment tool with a gender perspective, also developed within another working group created with the Ministry of Labour and social partners. And for this job, we also have some external experts in the working group. And so this job assessment tool aims to support employers to comply with the gender equality obligations of the law. And job assessment is also a part of the pay audit, and also should be included in the gender equality plan for companies with 50 or more workers. So the tool also allows making groups and company groups and compare groups of posts of equal value. Another tool that can be found at our technical advice service is a protocol for the prevention and action against sexual harassment and harassment based on the grounds of sex. This protocol includes different, so it includes the definition, conducts, example, how should be the protocol developed, what kind of principles should guide the protocol, how to implement it. And it has 2 different models, depending if the protocol is adopted by a small company that is not obliged to have a gender equality plan, or by a big one or a medium-sized one. So the conclusion is that equality bodies, we have a very important role to play in advising, promoting, raising awareness about the importance of adopt gender equality plans. And well, I think that's we have a very important role, and companies should make aware of it. And I think that's they really, at least for our experience, is that companies demand our support, because companies and also social partners, they don't know how to do equality planning, and we are the experts. So I think we have a lot of work to do and a good job. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna, so much for sharing this session and the process of negotiation and consulting with the employers, because you are right, equality bodies have very precious and valuable information to share with duty bearers, and you highlighted a very good example as to how equality planning duty may be imposed, particularly in a concrete field and particularly on an employer having over a concrete number of staff members. We can now move to our next panelists, Carla Bernardo and Isabel Rosinha from Commission for Citizenship and Gender Equality from Portugal. So the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning to all. My name is Carla. I'm very happy to be here with you today, and I will share this presentation with my colleague Isabel, and we will address local plans for equality in Portugal, where we are, how we got here, and where are we going. So to start, briefly, I just would like to say that we work in the Commission for Citizenship and Gender Equality. That is a service in the direct administration of the state, and we depend directly on the Secretary of the State for Equality and Migration. So, where are we? I'm sorry, I think you put the PowerPoint and the PDF and not the PowerPoint. I don't know, because it doesn't appear the map. Okay, I will continue, no problem. Okay, so, yeah, okay, no problem. So here you could see a map of Portugal. And we could see that we have now 36% of our territory with local equality plans. So we have in Portugal 308 municipalities, and until now we have 108 with equality plan in Portugal. How we got here? Oh, I'm sorry, but yeah, do you think we can put, yeah, because I'm sorry, but yeah, it's okay. Yeah. Yeah. So I can start again. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Okay. Okay, now we can see the map, yeah. So how we got here to this 36% of equality plans in Portugal at local level? It was essentially through gender mainstreaming here in Portugal. So I will give you, I will show you some steps. Of course, it's not all the work we have done, but I will show you the main steps that enable us to arrive here today. So gender mainstreaming in Portugal started quite early. More precisely in 1977, when our commission was created. And why? Because at that time, we decided to create also an advisory board with representatives not only of the civil society associations, but also representatives of all governmental areas. So this is considered the first step of gender mainstreaming in Portugal. It was quite an innovative initiative at that time, and it laid the foundations to all the work we have been doing in this area. So in 1997, we had our first global plan for equal opportunities that covered already the national level, but also the local level. So it was another important step. And in 2008, we had a resolution of the Council of Ministers that established measures to promote gender mainstreaming in the central public administration. At that time also, we created the existence of ministerial equality counselors. So we can say that in a first stage, we had representatives of all governmental areas in our advisory board. In a second stage, we have civil servants that are trained in gender equality so that they can gender mainstream in their daily work. Next important step, it was in 2010, we create also the existence of local equality counselors. And in 2013, a law established that municipalities must promote gender mainstreaming, namely through the creation or development of equality plans. During this period, we had many action plans, but in 2018, we have published our first national strategy for equality and non-discrimination. That is our main instrument of gender mainstreaming in our at present time. This national strategy has two important characteristics. The first one is that for the first time in Portugal, it brings together and articulates the work in three areas: the equality between women and men, the area of combating violence against women and domestic violence, and also in the area of LGBT issues. Another important feature is that it gives a special focus on territorialization. So this national strategy, it's not only a national instrument for central public administration, but it extends and its influence and work to the local level. Saying this, and to sum up my part, local equality plans in Portugal are considered a privileged instrument for gender mainstreaming, and our local equality plans, they translate at local level the priorities, the structure, the aims, the areas of work of our national strategy. So saying this, now I will give the floor to my colleague Isabel, and she will talk more precisely about the work that our commission, SIG, does together with municipalities in the development of these equality plans at local level. Thank you.
Hi, good morning to all. Thank you, Carla. The main way our Commission supports the creation of local equality plans is through protocols with the city councils that our Lisbon and Porto technical staff keep up with. SIG provides technical supports and training to city councils, provides a list with indicators for internal and external dimensions, recognizes and disseminates good practice, information resources, and available funding. City councils appoints local equality councillors and teams, develop gender diagnosis, designs, implements, and evaluates a 4-year local equality plan approved by the municipal bodies. In what concerns territorial coverage, and in addition to having a 36% of city councils with a local equality plan, as Carla mentioned, at this time, 82% have a protocol with SIG, 72% already appointed local councillors for equality, and 35% already appointed local equality teams. In general, if we reflect on these work processes, we highlight as strong points political commitment, namely through our national strategy, and the integration of a gender perspective in all policies through a legal framework. As weakness, we point out political cycles and insufficient human resources. Finally, as opportunities, we would like to highlight the importance of public funding. One of the ways SIG disseminate good local practice is through the celebration of the Municipal Day for Equality, which has been celebrated since 2010 and the 24th of October. SIG also recognizes good practices through the Biennial Living in Equality Award since 2012, which aims to distinguish city councils that integrate a gender perspective in their work. This year is the 6th edition of this award. Where are we going? We would like to highlight that at present time, we are funding 178 city councils. So we expect having 57% of our territory with equality plans for the next 4 years. Finally, we invite you, everyone, to visit the SIG website and the tab dedicated to Portuguese city councils. Me, Carla, and our colleague Rosa Oliveira from Porto, who is also present, are available for any question you may have. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was really interesting to hear the examples regarding obligations of equality planning on local level and how equality mainstreaming, particularly gender mainstreaming, led to equality planning duties. And it was also really important to hear about equality bodies' engagement in this process, particularly the functions of training, providing some resources, and so on. So, and yes, sorry for the technical issue we had at the beginning of the speech of the panelists. So as we are behind a bit behind the schedule, so we can just move to our last panelist for this session, Matti Jutila, from the Office of the Non-Discrimination Ombudsman of Finland, who will be joining us online, and then we can open the floor for questions. So Matti, the floor is yours.
Thank you, and greetings from Helsinki. I would have loved to join you in Lisbon, but unfortunately I had other commitments which prevented me from traveling. So I will focus on the role of equality body, namely our institution, the Non-Discrimination Ombudsman in Finland, and what is our role in equality planning in Finland. And I will focus on three different roles. First, support, second, monitoring, and third, example. I don't have a presentation, so I hope you can follow my talk even without PowerPoints. So first of all, we support equality planning, not so directly writing instructions ourselves, but we mostly try to ensure that each field that has a responsibility for equality planning has some kind of instructions on how to do a proper equality plan, including the evaluation of the current situation and how to draft proper concrete measures to promote equality in this particular field. So we do this for two main reasons. One is resources. We don't have the resources to write instructions for all the fields responsible for equality planning ourselves. We have very limited resources at our office, and most of our resources are geared towards supporting victims of discrimination rather than supporting equality planning. So therefore, we try to ensure that the relevant public authorities draft this kind of instructions, and we support them in drafting them. So one reason for this choice is resources, and the other is our mandate, because we also monitor equality planning. So therefore, this kind of a dual role where we in very concrete ways would instruct authorities and employers in equality planning, and then on the other hand monitor what they have done might sometimes be problematic. So they could say that, okay, we just followed your instructions and now you have nothing to say when the equality plan doesn't meet our standards and so on. So we kind of try to keep a little bit more distance from the actual work of equality planning, so that we have more kind of freedom in our mandate as monitors of equality planning. So we support especially public authorities in drafting instructions for equality planning, and this was our main task after the current Non-Discrimination Act entered into force in 2015, and we will do it again now that Finland is amending non-discrimination legislation at the moment. We are expecting the amended non-discrimination legislation to enter into force next year, next summer, and most likely the equality, equality planning will expand to some new sectors, at least early childhood education, so that every single unit of early childhood education should have an equality plan in the future. So we are supporting National Education Authority in drafting instructions for equality planning in early childhood education. At the moment, each education provider, each educational institution must have an equality plan, but at the moment it doesn't cover early childhood education, and now that is most likely going to change next year. So we are again supporting National Education Authority in drafting new instructions for equality planning in early childhood education. But I also mentioned monitoring. So that is our second role. So we monitor all the actors that are required by the law to draft equality plans. So that includes all public authorities, including also private sector actors that have some public tasks. It includes all education providers and educational institutions, and it also includes all employers that employ at least 30 persons. So we do two kinds of monitoring. One is systematic, and the other is ad hoc. So our systematic monitoring started from top level of hierarchy in public administration. So we systematically monitored the equality planning of all the state ministries in Finland. We sent them request for information, requested their equality plans, requested the instructions that they give to authorities under their supervision. We requested detailed information about how they evaluate current situation, what are the main inequalities in their field, in their activities. So we asked them for information about their equality planning, and we found that many of them were very much lacking. They didn't meet the minimum requirements set by the law. Some of the ministries had not even drafted their first equality plan, even though they were required to do so by the beginning of 2017. And we sent this request for information, I think, 2 years ago. And then we also found out that some of the ministries had drafted their first equality plans that had expired in 2019, and they had not renewed them. So at the top level of public authorities, we found a lot of flaws. But the response that we got was rather positive. They took the issue really seriously. And for example, the Finnish Ministry for Education and Culture had drafted an equality plan, but the plan had expired, and they thus didn't have an equality plan in force when we sent out the information request. They asked for our support, and we gave it, and now they have an equality plan that includes also monitoring and supporting all the authorities working under the supervision of Ministry for Education. They also include equality planning as a requirement for public funding, for example, for non-governmental organizations in sports. Not only do they require equality plans, they do so progressively in a way that in the first funding application rounds, they just kind of check the box, do you have an equality plan or not? And on the second round, they actually have qualitative evaluation whether the equality plan is any good. So they are progressively kind of requiring more and more from organizations that they are funding as a prerequisite for receiving public funding. And also now that they have qualitative evaluation of equality plans, they, if I recall it right, 10% of funding may be withdrawn if the equality plan is not up to standards. And our more ad hoc monitoring of equality planning comes from our work supporting victims of discrimination. Every time we have discrimination where we suspect a public authority or educational institution or any other actor that is required to have an equality plan. Every time we suspect such actor of violating the Non-Discrimination Act, we ask them to provide us with their equality plan. And we always give feedback if the equality plan doesn't meet the standards. And this is really ad hoc because it's based on the individual complaints that we receive, but we also move into a little bit more systematic direction. So for example, my main task here at the office is education. So I help victims of discrimination in the field of education. And I noticed that we get a higher disproportionate amount of individual complaints from one major city in Finland, and that the educational institutions had really terrible equality plans. By and large, all the schools in that city had really bad equality plans. So now we send a request for information to the city, asking them what kind of instructions they give to their schools, how do they support equality planning, how do they monitor equality planning in the city. So we move, when we notice like a systematic lack of equality planning somewhere, we might move on to more systematic monitoring of equality planning. And now this is the first case where we have done so, and so we don't have results yet, but we are expecting the city to deliver its report actually tomorrow. So then we'll move forward with that also. And the third point, just briefly, we try to lead by example also. We just renewed our equality plan. We did a rather extensive survey of our client groups of NGOs about equality in our work, how they perceive our work, how we could actually still do better. So we try to lead by example also. We just renewed it. It has been approved, and our equality plan will be published very soon, and it will be published also in English, so we can share that with Equinet partners also. So 3 roles: supporting, monitoring, and example. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Matti, for sharing your experience regarding monitoring equality plans as on systematic as well as on ad hoc basis, and for identifying the potential challenges that you face in this process and potential flows in the process of evaluating those plans. So now, as we are a bit behind the schedule, so I suggest to have 5 minutes for questions, and then we have a shorter break for 10 minutes. So all in-person and online participants are welcome to pose any questions to the panelists. Any questions maybe from online attendees? No? We have a question there.
Good morning. My name is Claudia. I'm working in IKEA. I have a question maybe to Assem. I'm not completely sure to whom, but regarding monitoring, in order to create plans, we need to have goals, and goals, we need to monitor them. What about all the questions related with ethnicity and race, where we cannot monitor? how, because of the law locally, we cannot monitor the characteristics of people. So how do you see this happening with the stronger movement if we cannot measure what we do? Maybe for you.
Thank you. Thank you, Claudia. Maybe you would be willing to respond as per your experience. Yes, please, Vera.
Sure, I can respond, but I'm not sure then if our management board member would want to speak. I think we're talking about two different dimensions. So the equality plan that we are presenting is internal. So we do collect information as far, because it doesn't go outside, it's inside our human resources. In that we collect, although this first plan was very much focused on gender. It wasn't so much, although our interest is to expand to other characteristics, including origin. I think this is a battle, an ongoing battle at the national level for us to be able to collect data. And there's the two standards of, well, if then we collect data, then it can be used against the people in the future. And so this is the argument. But if you don't have the data, then you don't know what the reality is, and you don't know how to move forward, and you don't know how to monitor if there's discrimination or there's not discrimination. So it's important. But as far as our plan specifically, since it's an internal plan, it's not so much of an issue, although I recognize what you're saying as far as an issue for the future. And I think there was a debate, a national debate on this with the National Statistics Institute, and it's sort of with COVID perhaps parked the discussion. So I think we're still a little bit waiting to know what the final decision is going to be for the future. I'm not sure if I answered. Yeah. Okay.
Just to raise the question.
Sure.
I kind of knew the answer.
I know you did.
Thank you, Vera.
We have an online question. Christopher Gambert from the Equality Ombuds in Norway has a question for Matti regarding whether there's a requirement in Finland that public sectors report annually on the work that it is done. And if so, whether the equality body also monitors these reports actively.
Thank you. So Matti, please.
Yeah, could you repeat the question? I missed the first part.
Of course. Whether there is a requirement in Finland that public sectors report annually on the work that it is done,
yeah.
And if the equality body does monitor those reports actively.
Short answer is no, there's no such requirement, and we don't monitor it actively. So the law requires that there needs to be concrete measures to promote equality. And what we've done with the ministries is that we've requested them to list these measures, give them a timeline, give them some kind of because the law doesn't even state how often equality plan should be renewed. It's just said that it needs to be renewed every now and then. Kind of a working instruction is that it should be renewed every 3 to 5 years. So we've instructed them to have measures with some kind of timeline, with follow-up also before the renewal of the equality plan. So this kind of not necessarily annual, but if we have a 4-year equality plan, they would have some kind of a follow-up meeting after 2 years and set new goals. So, but in short, there is no reporting requirement, and we don't monitor that because, well, it doesn't exist.
Thank you, Matti. Do we have any further questions? Please,
yes,
Yone.
We actually have a response from Christopher, who was the one that made the question. And he is saying that, well, thank you, Matti, for answering. But in Norway, that it is the opposite. The public sector must report annually on its work, but it has no requirement to publish a formal equality plan. So it was very interesting for him to be able to compare the different systems.
Yes, actually, like it is important to raise the question of reporting duty as well, along with implementing and monitoring aspects. Are there any further questions, maybe, either within in-person or online participants? Okay. Yeah, so then we can have a break and we will be back at 10. I think we can proceed with our conference. Thanks again to the panelists from the first session, and now we can proceed with the second one. In the second session, we will be discussing about cooperation for achieving effective equality in practice, and we will be having panelists who will share lessons learned in their experience of supporting or leading on equality planning. In this panel, we will have in-person and online panelists as well, and this panel also will be followed by a questions and answers session. So our first panelist for this session is Despina Mertaka, Officer, Commissioner for Administration and the Protection of Human Rights from Cyprus. So Despina, the floor is yours, please.
The presentation, you've got it?
Yeah.
Okay. Just ask me now. Okay, let's start, Sophie. Thank you. First of all, I would like to thank Equinet for inviting me to speak of our work as a Cyprus equality body. And I would like to thank also to my Portuguese colleagues for having us in Lisbon. Thank you. Next, I'm not going to repeat our definition, and Katie has covered this, but next, shall I do this, my own? Yeah, it's better. Okay. Yeah. Being an equality body, we face challenges in order to develop and implement equality plans. Despite having a very coherent and comprehensive equality legislation, we realize that problems persist in respect of both the content and scope of laws aimed at combating discrimination in employment and occupation, as well as their application. Why? We seem to find out that there is a widespread skepticism among senior management about the necessity for an equal opportunities policy in their organizations. Also, resistance, either personal resistance due to individual beliefs or motives, or institutional resistance, which consists of a systematic, ongoing, sustained pattern of non-engagement with the issue of non-discrimination, equality, and a pronounced lack of support for an equality plan. There is also lack of awareness or understanding of equality plans among employees and other social partners. How can we overcome those challenges? To drive progress and effectively eliminate unconscious bias and discrimination and advance equality, we need to reshape and rebuild systems and policies. This is what an equality plan aims to do. This means recognizing the diverse challenges that different marginalized groups face and focusing on designing equitable processes. Inclusion is the key, and employers should systematically screen their processes for discrimination and unconscious bias. Processes and practices should focus solely on the skills and qualification of the candidates, the candidate brings, and not based on their personal attributes. We also need more transparency and accountability. This can generally be resolved only by early involvement, commitment, and ongoing support from senior management in an organization across the full human resource value chain. And I mean from recruitment to talent management, development, promotion, reward, and recognition. This support needs to be visible, perceptible, and genuine to all those within an organization in order to develop a reputation for deeming equality work important. We have to build trust. In order to build trust, you need to be transparent in the company. Also, we can refer to international and European research and reports on this topic, and their findings benefits may be useful in order to convince senior management and stakeholders of the importance of implementing equality plans. More concretely, expanding the pool of talent, tackling unconscious bias, or better addressing non-discrimination relevant aspects through research together contribute to enhancing excellence and can result in a competitive advantage for companies. We have to persuade as well the employers that by having happy employees, they are going to have also effective, efficient, and profitable businesses. We all know that companies are not charitable institutions. We have to insert the margin of profits in our discussions. So the conscious application of the non-discrimination principles generates acceptance, support, and further development of the employees' capabilities. This approach results in innovation opportunities and enhances the performance and competitiveness of the organization. So what are our opportunities? We have the opportunity to engage and mobilize stakeholders. Developing and implementing equality plan in cooperation with relevant stakeholders will result in achieving equality in practice, because it will be a mutual decision made after social dialogue and social consensus. We have the opportunity as well to sensitizing policy decision makers and training operational staff on how to achieve effective equality in their everyday work, and engaging in dialogue at all levels and in both public and private sectors. As equality bodies, we can offer tailor-made technical assistance, facilitating institutional learning, equality networking, and exchange of information. This is to ensure a collective shared understanding of the importance of an equality plan within an institution and frame it as an organizational priority. Developing policy, strategic guidelines, practices based on the acceptance of diversity and inclusion. It has been heard before, but it's important to underline that developing and implementing an equality plan needs to be continued and maintained in order to ensure that any gains previously made are sustainable and flexible enough to adapt to any changes in a company. A company is not a fixed thing, it changes. Maybe internally, change of a CEO, externally, pandemic, social change, economic crisis. We need to be as a tool to adapt to any changes. So it's not one-off activity or tick the box. We as Cyprus Equality Body, our work in supporting equality planning, we're focusing on issuing codes of practice. We have issued 2 codes of practice currently: the Code of Practice for the Prevention and Treatment of Harassment and Sexual Harassment at Work in Public Service, as well as in Cyprus Theatre Organization. Due to publications that had seen the light in publicity in the printed and in the electronic press in regards to sexual harassment incidents occurred in theater, either in events or productions or premises, the Cyprus Theatre Organization contacted us and asked us to provide assistance in order to draft a code about tackling sexual harassments in their premises. So we were involved in all phases of the project, from the beginning till the end, when the code was presented to the public. The code was prepared in cooperation with our office and after consultation with the competent representative of the trade unions of the Cyprus Theatre Organization. It was a tailor-made code based on their own characteristics, their own staff. So it was, a very on the spot, just and adjusted just to the Cyprus Theatre Organization. Is binding for all the employees. And after its publication in April 2001, we scheduled in June 2021 a training seminar in order to provide the necessary guidance and information to the organization and employees. And we are rescheduling a follow-up seminar in the coming months. We also regularly engage also regularly give lectures, advice, recommendation, and presentation to groups in both public and private sector about their obligations to respect and protect human rights of all citizens without discrimination. We cooperate with various stakeholders such as the Cyprus Police Academy, schools, universities, hotels, trade unions, NGOs. Currently, and due to our conference today, we had the pleasure to contact Diversity Charter Cyprus, and Cyprus Ombudswoman recently signed the Memorandum of Understanding with the Diversity Charter Cyprus, and we are currently exploring ways to cooperate together. And what I want to close with is that equality bodies are expected to receive many new competencies, either in work-life balance or gender balance quotas on boards or pay transparency. I strongly believe that the way to succeed in our goals and in promoting equality in practice, we have to make synergies with all the key players in labor market, and it's not to base only on the law. We have to find other alternatives to persuade the key players, which is the trade unions, the employer organizations, and the Ministry of Labor, of our validity to exchange info, to build on our capacity building in promoting and drafting equality plans to help them. To me personally, it's a bet in order to persuade and be there while collective agreements are going to draft. If we have the opportunity to persuade trade unions and employers unions just to be careful and take care, maybe possible discriminatory clauses unconsciously, I'm going to say, in the collective agreements, we are on the same or the correct path to achieve equality in practice. Thank you.
Thank you, Despina, so much for reflecting on the importance of showing the employers the benefits of equality plannings, and for mentioning the positive result of referring to your equality body on the part of the Theatres Association and asking for the consultation on this issue, and also for mentioning your equality body is doing with regard to providing some guidelines on tackling sexual harassment and conducting some educational activities as well in different premises. So our next panelist is also from Cyprus, and we will be having Demetris Hadjisofokli online, Managing Director of the Center for Social Innovation Diversity Charter. So Demetris, the floor is yours, please.
Hello guys, how's everybody? I hope you are doing well. I wish I was there to enjoy the wonderful food of Portugal, but unfortunately I couldn't make it. Can you hear me okay? Yes?
Yes. Yes, yes.
Great, wonderful. Let me share a story with you. My most inspiring time of the day, every day, is when I drive my 8-year-old daughter Sophia to school. And as we drive to school, which it takes approximately 25 minutes, depending on the traffic, we talk about a lot of different issues. The last month and a half, our ride to school coincides with within a particular stretch of road with the passing of a lady and her daughter. Her daughter, it looks like, is approximately the same age as my daughter's, 8 years old. And they are walking to school. And we kind of, my daughter noticed this couple and always talks about them. You know, Dad, why do they walk to school? Dad, this and Dad, that. And we came to the point where every morning we will expect to see if we are going to see our new friends. Okay. It happens that our new friends are of a different ethnicity and nationality. you are of African descent. It's irrelevant in all respects, but it's just to kind of visualize the story. With the culmination of this experience yesterday, where my daughter said, as soon as we got in the car, that if we find our friends today, I want you to stop a little bit so we can get their phone number to go and play together with that little girl, which we did. We stopped. It was kind of weird, to tell you the truth. But the lady understood, and we share phone numbers, and my wife and her are talking to arrange to get together. But in my mind, there is something that is always in there. Okay, why do we change from this pure, gullible, nice people when we are born and raised up to a certain age into these people where we need to sit here and devise plans for equality and diversity and all that stuff, which is necessary, don't get me wrong. So keep that in mind as I go through my prepared statement, because I have to stay within the 10-minute, I usually don't do it, but stay within the 10-minute window that I have and cram all the things that I want to share with you. So we'll come back to that story later if you want to. As was said, I'm the managing director, the CEO of the Center for Social Innovation. And the Center for Social Innovation is an organization that leads the way in an effort to address systemic social changes within our community. Our core purpose is to improve the quality of life of individuals and the society within the communities we interact and beyond by impacting a culture shift towards an inclusive and diverse world based on love and mutual respect. And I really mean that. Love and mutual respect, I think, are key when it comes to any issue in our society that we strive with. We try to create an ecosystem that encourages and nurtures that philosophy. We really believe in that. And this ecosystem comprises of both an internal as well as an external framework. The external framework is what Despina mentioned, which is a diversity charter Cyprus, an EU-driven initiative that includes charters in all EU member states, and I'm pretty sure that you're familiar with that. At CSI, we set up the Cyprus Charter, and we do fund it with our own funds. We promote it, and we do share resources with the whole purpose to encourage, raise awareness, educate, and create basically a network of organizations that embrace this idea of diversity, inclusion, and what I call equity in opportunity, as opposed to just the equality part. Within this charter, we have around 70 members that are some of the largest organizations on the island. And there is a lot of traction and a lot of movement and a lot of interest and excitement that comes through that group of people. And we are growing by the week. Every week we have new members. The internal framework, which I think is what is important for this part of the conversation here, is that at CSI, we operate within a culture that we consciously facilitated that is inherently based on equity and opportunity. And there are three reasons for that. The first reason is that it's the right thing to do. And for us, there is no other way. We don't see it in any other way. It's part of our DNA. The second reason is that it's good for business operationally, financially, and socially, in that the business that excludes people takes away an opportunity to hire, work, interact, collaborate, and do business with the best of the best, which in turn leads to beneficial business cycles. The third reason is that there's no good and bad ethnicities, cultures, religions, colors, or creed, or any other of those demographic aspects of life. They're just people who we need to collaborate with, and we need to evaluate them purely based on merit. If we are smart business people, since I'm on the side of the business, we need to just evaluate and hire people and want to work with people based on, you know, the merits of who they are, their qualifications, as opposed to anything else. We have an internal roadmap. as a CSI that led us to creating this culture of equity and opportunity through the development of a safety net that keeps us honest and true to our belief system. So you have to continually reevaluate and go back to whatever equality plan or diversity and inclusion plan that you have. We don't leave anything to chances. So for example, when we recruit staff, we implement a double-blind selection process. During the initial screening, we do not have any view to any demographic information other than their qualifications. The results speak for themselves. A diverse staff that includes 80% women. We have 80% of our staff, of 50 people, they are women. And by the way, we grew during the pandemic threefold. We were 10 people, and now we're approximately 50 people. And all these people have different philosophical beliefs, geographical origins, social concerns, expertise, sexual orientation, religious beliefs, whatever. We also have a one uniform policy strategy on benefits, strengthened by our policies on gender-based facilitation. For example, we are much more stringent than the state and the legislation requires of us. And what do I mean by that? Is like, for example, with mothers who just gave birth to their kids, we try as best as possible to facilitate the process of having to take care of these kids and during their stay-at-home period, where the mothers are paid by law in Cyprus, they are paid 70% of their salary when they are home nurturing their kids. We as a company, we decided to pay them at 100%. So we pay 25% to complete the 75% that they are paid by the government to make sure that we keep these people whole and we keep them not worrying about where they are going to find this extra money. We also encourage other things, continuing education, time allowance, so we can develop their people and keep them fresh and keep them interested and keep them developing as human beings and as professionals. We care about their mental health and other overall well-being of our colleagues and all other things similar to that, that basically keep our people, our colleagues happy. We also have performance-based compensation plans with safeguards against discrimination that are purely based on clear and specific performance objectives. It is ironic that inequality and the sense of unfair treatment results from misunderstanding diversity and equality, in my mind. This is true on both sides of the debate. However, to be able to address a problem, we need to understand its origins. Why do we have this issue? Remember the story that I told you at the beginning. By understanding the variables that create this sense of inequality, we'll be better equipped to work to identify solutions. Sometimes we create policies and what have you in a vacuum, and that sometimes doesn't get us the results that we are looking for. So why and how did we get to the point of discussing and being affected by inequality? If as kids, as I said in my story initially, we are born pure and with a clean slate, how do we not embrace diversity and how we grow older with not doing that, and why? Let's look at the ecosystem. The hidden curriculum, if you may, that is propagated by mass media, society, popular culture, social media, sometimes our families, peers, education apparatus, and all that. How do we address these issues? How do we change? How do we go back into maintaining this goodness that we naturally have as human beings? Well, we did by maintaining a strong and encouraging the natural tendency that we have as human beings of empathy and confidence. Empathy, there is a beautiful Greek word on that, which is called ensynesthesis. Only then will be fair and kind human beings with a strong sense of justice, fairness, right and wrong. And yes, we need to start encouraging and cheering on our kids in a path of love and respect, love for people, love for the environment, and decency and respect for each other. Now, how does all that comes together? We all need to collaborate to help society. And in this case, the business within the society, which is the subject of this particular panel, to understand that the idea of diversity, inclusion, and equity and opportunity are opportunities to grow our businesses, because if we embrace these ideas, this set of values, they will be able to build, these businesses will be able to build a more valuable brand by attracting better staff, more customers, and a community support and patronage. How do we do this? Businesses are data-driven and money-driven. Lisbon touched on that as well. That is the nature of running a business. We need to think about the well-being of our stakeholders within the framework that as managers we understand. So we should be able to have a conversation with our business partners and share the data that demonstrates that embracing diversity, inclusion, and equality creates a competitive advantage. Also, government agencies, and I think I want to emphasize this area here, is that we need to have a positive philosophy that encourages a diverse culture and behavioral modification. What do I mean by that? Instead of drafting, let's say, and promoting punitive policies and legislation, one second, I dropped my earpiece here. Instead of promoting punitive policy and legislation that forces businesses to implement diversity plans, let's try to understand what their concerns are, the business people concerns are, and why they do not embrace these equality plans, and to perhaps provide solutions that are convincing. For example, governments may incentivize changes, give incentives to businesses by funding 100% of the equality plan policies that they want to encourage, and that would be, there will be an opportunity for business to experience the positive impact diversity and equality plans have. Specific ideas may include 100% salary coverage for mothers when they stay home with their newborns, maybe subsidized temporary replacement staff, maybe funding the construction of disabled access of individuals in old buildings that host businesses, maybe fund diversity training, fund perhaps an ISO-like certifications and give tax incentives and credits to companies that comply with those certifications, and do the same thing when they comply with the rules and policies and plans in the realm of equality planning. We believe that the way moving forward is one of collaboration, incentives, and plans that encourage and promote understanding and knowledge of the issues at hand. Only then the culture will change, and in the long term have a society in which businesses operate that embraces all human beings regardless of their unique circumstances, and rather focus on individual qualifications. Let's all embrace diversity and inclusion and equality and equity and opportunity, because it is the right thing to do, and then everything else will take care of itself. And I will leave you with this last thought here. The last sentence of the first paragraph of the EU anti-racist plan reads, and I quote, "We have to be active against it." And here, we do have to be active against discrimination and for equality. So actions are better than words, and I agree with that. And it is paramount and it is urgent that we move from planning and from making beautiful and even substantive statements to practical actions that could have a real life-changing impact on people's lives. If we want, and I trust that we do, to do away with this ages-long idea of inequality, of artificially putting one human being above another, must end, and we must end it now. And our resolve should be unequivocal and steadfast. So together, and I will leave you with that, with this tagline, together we can get this done, and it will be a wonderful shift for all of us. Thank you. Sorry for reading it. It's all mine. I just had to cram everything in these 10 minutes. I appreciate you paying attention to what I've said, and hopefully we'll have a great conversation. So thanks a lot, and love to all of you.
Yeah, thank you, Demetris, for sharing your experience and pointing on the need and importance of encouraging diversity. So now we can move to Claudia Dominguez, Country Communication Manager from IKEA Portugal, and have perspective from a private company.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me. Yes, I am here representing IKEA in Portugal, but in fact, as I hope you also acknowledge, IKEA has the equality very well embedded into the business strategy, the people strategy, the sustainability strategy. So it's quite a wide topic for us. And I will start by actually acknowledging one of the topics that was discussed here before, is that, of course, equality, diversity and equality is part of our vision, is how we see the world from the humanistic point of view, but it's also a business topic, because we understand that diverse teams are more productive, they are more innovative, they solve problems in a different way. So it is a way to reach best results faster, to have broader teams. Is also a way to mirror society in a way that we mirror our customers. Because if we are all the same and we have a diverse group of customers, maybe we are not solving their problems. We are not being relevant for them. We are not speaking the same language as customers. So finding the solutions for a diverse public, it also comes from having a diverse internal background. And then we also have to understand that customers and coworkers demand it. It's no longer a nice to have. It's demanded by society. It's demanded by coworkers to understand, what are you doing? And especially when we start to talk a little bit louder about the topic, demands become even stronger. Okay, we are talking, we need to act. So, and of course, it's a human right, and that's how we see it. So it's not only a business topic, it's also our contribution to society, doing our part on society, and also connects a bit with the topic and the whole theme about collaboration. It is how we see our role being played from our purpose and our values perspective. As I was saying, this is not a function, it's not a role. We do have a ED&I team, but they are not the responsible to make things happen. They are responsible to make the mechanism work. But in fact, it is a topic that is held at management level, but also from the people and culture team, our HR department. From my side, from the communication and positioning, with a very strong focus on the internal communication, because for us, it's more important to start internally, to have people engaged on why we are doing this, why we believe this is true, and what we are doing. And also from the sustainability, I will not have time to develop here, but we look at sustainability also from the societal area. And of course, if you want to create a fair and more inclusive society, equality plans are also here. So we are basically the three main contributors to the strategy, and we make sure that this mechanism works, and then it's spread out throughout all the leadership in the organization until it reaches the coworkers. Also from the measurement point of view and how we are tracked, we have a system of KPIs of how we measure our work, where we truly see our performance from a value creation point of view. So value to the company. Yes, we are not a charity organization. We need to create profit, and only with profit we can make things change and movement. So there is, of course, how we can create a better company, but at the same time, we also are measured on how we are creating a better life for customers, a better create for our coworkers, for lives of coworkers, and for the planet. And all of this is traced, and we have specific goals for each one of these areas. And an example is we have a specific goal on equality on 50-50 on women on management positions, which is traced every year at a very regular way. And it's part of this value creation structure. So we believe in human rights, and we believe that we can be a workplace that is diverse, inclusive, and progressive, but also a leader in society, which connects me with the second part of collaboration. That is, a company alone cannot make big movements. We need to be connected with the world. We need to be connected with the other companies, with the partners, with the policymakers, etc., to make things happen. So what we started in our plan, first we have to understand, of course, diversity has a lot of dimensions, and we are quite a small organization, and we know that we cannot focus on everything at the same time. So what we decided is we are going to focus on 3 specific areas, understanding that these are the ones that we understand as more urgent, more relevant for our local situation. And this is something that is done at the local level. So we have some global goals. For instance, 50-50 on women on managerial positions is a global goal for all IKEA in all the world. But then we can locally adapt our plans to the local reality and to the local needs. So we started by right now focusing on first on gender. It's our first area. It's where we have worked for more than 20 years. So we have the goal of 50-50, and here it's about maintaining. It's true, we cannot drop it because it's very easy. Companies change, teams change, CEOs change, leaders change, and suddenly we go back and we see, 50-50, no longer. So there is a topic about maintaining this at a very constant level. Also a very strong topic about maintaining the 0% on pay gap, which is something that we started very deeply to work 3 years ago, making sure first we understood the reality, we had the right data, and then we act upon it. And now we can say we have 0% on pay gap between men and women. And then we also have a program connected to domestic violence, which is part of this plan. And then we have two other areas that we are focusing on. One, it's a legal demand. It's about people with disability. And we are working to have at least 2% of representation in all the units. We are not there yet. And we are working to make sure this happens. And we are starting now a very deep work on ethnicity, race, and nationalities. Understanding that this is a topic that we see as relevant for the local market. We see that there isn't enough work being done. It's something that it's being growing in society. We understand it will come even stronger in the next, with the new generations, and we want really to act upon it. This means that there are some areas that are not being actively taken. Age, for instance, we are not there yet, or religion. We are monitoring, trying to understand, but we are not having specific actions on it. Regarding this engagement and how we collaborate, we focus, and just to give you some examples, we try to use some specific moments because we understand that the discussion on the topics are higher on the agenda, both internally and external. So we use, for instance, International Women's Day or IDAHOT, as we are doing this week, or the World Refugee Day, which will come now in June. We also have an internal event called the Diversity Week, which happens normally in December, connected with the Human Rights Day. So we try to make big moments where we can, from one side, raise the awareness, and we always start internally, as I was saying, with events, inviting guests, discussing topics, trainings, unconscious bias. So whatever we can do to promote the discussion internally. But then also, some years ago, we started to say, okay, it's now we feel safe to start talking about it broadly, also externally. Because it is also part of our, as we see our role, to promote as kind of an example in some of the areas we are working on. One of the actions we are really proud of is our podcast. We have a monthly podcast connected with equality topics. Every month we have a different topic where we include coworkers, but also external guests to talk about different areas. SIG was also already part of our conversations as one of the guests, external guests. And we try to focus on different areas, always with a human perspective. So it's the coworkers, for instance, from our contact center, sharing how their Brazilian accent sometimes is an issue for customers. What does this mean? What can we do to make sure people understand that just because you're Brazilian, it doesn't mean you're less competent? So there is here a topic, and we by sharing real examples, human examples, we try to promote change also internally. And then we also understand how we must also be connected with society in other areas, with government, NGOs, etc., to have the broader perspective, also to ask for collaboration. For instance, regarding the people with disabilities, we have issues with recruiting. It's difficult to find people with the competence, the right competence for some areas. So working with some NGOs in the area really supports us. But also we decided last year to create a CEO network. So we invited other companies that think alike in the market to discuss this topic, to see how can some of the most, we hope, progressive companies what are we doing? How can we share examples between each other? Because it's true that not all companies are at the same level in all the areas of diversity. So having Microsoft inspiring us for the LGBT topics, for instance, or us with gender, or another talking about people with disabilities, for instance, to inspire each other and to actively work, but also to promote this discussion externally. So we decided also to talk about it externally as a group of companies who really want to promote an intentional actions on this topic. So this, I would say, is also a way to show how we try to open up and to collaborate with society, not to be closed in our own doors. So as I was saying, we are now taking the first steps on ethnicity. My question before was not so innocent because we are really on this topic. How can we understand first the reality of society? Because of course we are not colorblind. We see that our Portuguese society has many colors, but we don't see them, these colors, in the managerial positions especially. So what is stopping people? What is blocking? Are we blocking as a company? Is it education? Is it, where is the problem? Where is the issue? So it's really trying to understand where we are. If we have the biases, what can we do to correct them? It's about listening to people internally, mapping the experience, trying to understand why aren't people applying for some jobs, for instance, or why aren't they being selected, which is the second step. We are also pushing for this discussion. We have already several of our episodes about ethnicity, which is a topic that is very difficult to talk about in Portugal. I don't know if you all agree, but it is a topic. We don't have the right words even to talk about it. We don't know how to express the different topics. So it is something that we see as a need. And we have now starting to create an action plan specific on this topic. And when we started this action plan, we understood that if we would do nothing, so if we would be just organically growing and going as with the flow of society, it would take us 27 years to have as we believe, a relevant representation of the Black community in our managerial positions in general. But if we look at the top management, it would take us 110 years. So having this in mind, we understand, okay, at least I don't have that much time. I don't think we all have. So we are starting really an action plan, and it is a difficult plan. It's difficult to communicate, it's difficult to implement, but it's where we are focused right now. This is it. Thank you.
Claudia, thank you so much. This was really powerful, and it is always appreciated this type of position on the part of a private company, because like realizing the social responsibility and obligations regarding equality is really important. And it was really interesting that you mentioned that you see like promotion of diversity as a human rights on the one hand, and on the other hand as a tool of for external communication and for adaptation to the reality, and yes, that also contributes for the benefits of business. So thank you so much. It was really important and interesting. And now it's time for municipalities perspective, and we have online Almira Macedo, local councillor for equality from municipality of Matosinhos, Portugal. So,
hello, good morning.
Almira, please.
I'm Miriam Silva. I'm from Matosinhos municipality. I will share my presentation. Hope everyone, well, let me see if I can do it right. Why is not working? Oh, yes, here it is, I think. Let's see. Okay, are you seeing it? I think so. So it's a pleasure for us to be part of this forum. It's extremely important to understand that we are on the right path, and we thank the Commission for Citizenship and Gender Equality for all the support. Equality, citizenship, and non-discrimination are for us fundamental principles for a sustainable, equal, and inclusive development. A society has to be democratic and respectful of human rights and liberties, and the participation of every person has to be assured. In this regard, municipalities are entities which hold unique conditions to step in on fighting inequalities and to promote an inclusive environment within their communities. Therefore, the municipality of Matosinhos has been developing a set of actions in order to promote an integrated policy of social development in terms of equality, citizenship, and non-discrimination, in accordance with the national strategy and with the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. In this path, Matosinhos is implementing a municipal plan for gender equality with the aim of working this issue in a perspective of proximity and adequate to the characteristics of this population. This plan is developed within a network that involves more than 160 organizations which form the social network of Matosinhos. 2 years ago, in 2020, our council received the prize Living in Equality award by the Commission for Citizenship and Gender Equality. This award makes us very proud because it recognizes our building of a more inclusive and equal municipality. In the municipal strategy on the issues concerning gender equality, there is an initiative that we want to highlight here today. This initiative is a campaign to promote gender equality among youngsters called Igual Igual, Equal Equal. This initiative emerged from the specific objective of answering to the needs identified during the field work, namely concerning the work implemented in teen dating violence prevention. It was this work that allowed us to understand the myths and beliefs of inequalities are still embedded. Therefore, this initiative has become a new strategy addressed mostly to youngsters and organizations which are part of their daily life in the present and near future. The Council of Matosinhos released this campaign in 2020 through social media with the aim of contributing to the transformation of perspectives and inadequate behaviors. This campaign, through videos and postings in social media, as well as through a website created for this purpose, broadcasts this message that aims the ending of dating violence and the end of myths about gender difference. Here are some examples of those messages, like she's too beautiful to be smart, and the right one is she's beautiful and smart. Men don't cry, men cry. You know how to cook, you can marry. You know how to cook, you can be independent. The campaign involves influencers from different areas that are attractive to young people, such as the young Iberian boxing champion Juliana Rocha, a renowned comedian, Tiago Faro, and the blogger Clara Neon. The influencers work as ambassadors of the campaign, participating and disseminating all the initiatives and steps that are taken. The use of the demonstration of the gender equality stereotypes allied to the videos of the ambassadors increase the range of the campaign among youngsters. The first edition of the campaign contemplates the visual art contest called Creativity Contest, SOCNEL, that means just no. This contest was addressed to youngsters from 15 to 25 years old and intended to promote through art values of gender equality. As a result, there were 69 works competing, such as drawings, videos, theater performance, paintings, poetry, and the 2 winning works reflect the need to continue to work on the deconstructing stereotypes. One of the winning works was chosen by a jury and the other one by the public. This way, every person who followed the campaign had a chance to have an active role in the context. The first winning work by Ana Luisa Silva shows, according to her, that boys cannot play with dolls and girls cannot play with cars, questioning why this separation has to exist when imagination has no gender. These works reflect the dimension that the education and socialization have on this matter. The other one by Ana Luisa Almeida, according to her, expresses the nudity of this environment in the leadership that the other wants and in the submission I feel, creating barriers in intimacy that I try to preserve. In summary, and talking about the first edition of the campaign, it had a great range, as we can see on the map. The dots mean the several locations where more views and interactions took place using various platforms in a total of 1 million views. After this, the council released a second edition of the campaign And according to one of the areas identified in the social diagnosis for gender equality, decided to work on questions concerning equality in the world of sport. So highlighting the Municipal Day for Equality that happens at 24 October, which is celebrated as a significant date, the Council organized a debate named Talking To. In this event, we had the participation of young people, association leaders, and athletes. 3 special guests were significant athletes in sports, usually undertaken by the other gender, such as an artistic men's skater, a boxing woman, and a soccer woman. Following the debate, the campaign of this year will focus on gender issues in sport and intends to have nationwide scale, including a series of actions related to a culture free of stereotypes, inclusive, and with equal opportunities. The campaign will integrate the creativity contest, and this edition has two distinct target groups, namely youngsters from 15 to 30 years old who are challenged to express their sensitivity and knowledge concerning issues like gender in sports. On the other side, sports clubs from teens who should think about good practice concerning gender equality among athletes. Aside from the contest, the campaign will also include awareness and training actions for youngsters and technical team members who work directly with youth. Finally, we'll also be promoted a meeting of good practice for association leaders, coaches, athletes, guardians, and teachers of physical education and citizenship. We thank you once again the opportunity you gave us to share with you what we've been learning since we started this project. For further contact, feel free to email us. Obrigada.
Thank you, Palmira. Thank you for highlighting the work of the municipality on working on equality plans and the activities it does, including the art contests and awareness raising in sports and so on. And thanks to all the panelists. And now it's time for questions. Yeah, please, Carla.
Thank you. My question is to Claudia, and it's about the aim that you have of zero gender pay gap. My question is, how do you monitor, which indicators, if you have, and if you do it on the basis of equal work, equal pay, because it's easier to have zero pay gap there, or at least in Portugal, the gender pay gap, it's very related with segregation in the activities. So in general, women are in less paid positions. And also it has to do with conciliation, because in all the world, but here in Portugal also, conciliation is still considered a women issues. Usually it's them who do the work at home and care. And this in Portugal influences a lot the gender pay gap. So my question is, you address gender pay gap, equal work, equal pay, or you have also activities to address gender pay gap in segregation and conciliation? Thank you.
I'm not a specialist. I will not be able to give you all the detail, but it's a broad work. So it starts there at monitoring each function and each the function and the path of each person to understand if they are correctly being paid according to their role and to their experience, etc., no matter the gender. So it's ponderated like that. But as you said, it's true. It also comes from other reasons. That's why, for instance, the goal of 50-50% of women on management positions helps to balance that, because we have to monitor to make sure that from all the managers, 50% are women. And that balances, of course, that it's not only on co-worker level that we are talking about, but also at management level. And we also try to push that it's not a blind 50-50, that, okay, communication, HR, it's women, and logistics and operations are men. No, it's at each function. So we try to manage that in each group. For instance, our logistics manager is a woman. So that to make sure that it is broad from that point of view.
to kind of go against that bias from the organization. And then, yes, one of the areas that is being addressed is all the parental leaves. We know that parental leaves are many times hiccup in women's careers, and they see them as that. So there are several actions that we are taking. Just 2 examples. One is we prolonged the paternity leave for men and women, and we push men to take the parental leave so that it's from different perspectives, but also because we are a life at home company. So if men don't understand life at home, they probably are not good coworkers. So go home, it's part of your role. But then it's skills, yes, it's true. But also one specific action that was taken after this first monitoring is to understand that one mistake we're taking was when women were on parental leave, many times they were not being raised. The salary was not being raised because they were not in the company for almost a year. And we changed that. And now, even if you are on parental leave, if you are according to your performance, etc., you are being raised. So salaries are being changed and upgraded, even if you are temporary out of the company. So that the gap doesn't increase when you come back. So it's a very broad topic. And these are just 2 examples because it's difficult to monitor and to compare apples with apples and people who are actually in the same role, but with the same fair wage from that point of view, but also everything we can do in the background to make sure that we don't find these gaps later in the careers.
Thank you, Claudia. And now there are, okay, please,
which is a follow-up, actually.
So I think this is mainly for Claudia, but probably someone else can also give their own perspective or experience. And the question is from Pedro Encarnaciao from the Câmara Municipal de Portimão in Portugal. And he's asking, how do you manage gender roles inside an organization? For example, the idea that cleaning is for women and carrying heavy stuff is for a man.
Well, I can start. We try to break some biases. I don't know if you saw one of the pictures I shared is one of our coworkers from logistics managing a lift, forklift, exactly. Because we also want to break this kind of biases that this is a role for men, this is a role for women. Just as an example, women drivers from forklifts are normally slower in the work they do, but more perfect with less damages and less accidents. So, and we try to explain what does this mean? So this balance, having a group with men and women makes a team more productive, for instance. This is just an example. So we try to break these kind of biases, and also because we have this 50-50 goal, we try to make sure that, for instance, a communication team is not only by girls, we also have men, and the same in HR or the same in logistics. So we try, managers and leaders have this intentional work when they are recruiting to make sure they have a balanced team.
If I may add, it would honestly, in order to tackle the separation between men and women at work, you have to ensure to have equal access to apply for the job. If a woman has the chance to apply in order for IKEA driver post based on qualification, based on her skills, compared with a guy, I mean, you have ensured the 50% of the target of having the equal access to that post. If you have 50-50 managerial post, the post says that the salary as a manager is that one, regardless if you are a male or female. So we are aiming at that target, having neutral clauses, neutral posts, based solely and focus on the skills, on the qualifications, on the academic backgrounds, on the experience, but not because of your gender.
Thanks to both of you. Sorry for interrupting. We are running out of time.
If we use IKEA good practice, just to make sure that in practice, equality does not compete with your margin of profits. Instead, it contributes to that. If you ensure that you're going to have a very balanced work balance, neutral, gender neutral environment, working environment, you are going to safeguard that your employees, they are going to be motivated in helping the company's aim and as well as their profits. This is my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you so much. If we don't have anything, I think we can now go to the break for 10 minutes and we will be back at 12:15. Thank you.
Thank you. Vera.
We are back again, so we can start with our third and final session, Building Bridges and Ways Forward. The panelists in this session will discuss how to increase knowledge about and use of equality plans in the future by public authorities and private actors, and by national and regional level policymakers, how to communicate with duty bearers and other stakeholders to facilitate effective equality planning. In this session, all panelists will have 8 minutes, so I'd like to ask to observe this timing as we are behind the schedule. So our first panelist is Carla Tavares, President of Commission for Equality in Labor and Employment in Portugal. So please, Carla, the floor is yours.
Hello, good morning to all. I hope that, okay, I wait. Okay, I will introduce you. The CIT is the Commission for Equality and Labor and Employment in Portugal. CIT was created in 1979 and comes under the authority of the Ministry of Labor, Solidarity and Social Security in articulation with the government member in charge with gender equality. CIT has a tripartite composition, as you can see on this slide, and all the members meet twice a month, and in a tripartite commission is validate deliberation in the majority of the members are present. And the president has entitled to casting vote. CIT pursue equality and non-discrimination between men and women in labor, employment, and vocational training, collaborate in the implementation of legal provisions and conventions in the field as well as those concerning of the protection of parenthood and reconciliation between or work balance between professional, family and personal life in the private, public and cooperative sectors. So CIT promote social dialogue, promote studies, research and projects, develop and organize training and awareness in changing activities, and also cooperate at national and international levels, provide legal services and information, and appraisal of the legality of collective bargaining provisions. In Portugal, there was a significant change in the paradigm of the law, especially in the labor code, with more protection of parentality, flex time work arrangements, and the reinforcement of the importance of the social dialogue. We have as priority promote the realization of gender equality in employment, wages, and working conditions, assess to the impacts of the law on equal pay between men and women, and verify the progress made, because we consider it is important deepen measures for a more transparent remuneration policy, procedures for comparative analysis of remunerations and earnings, and identify situations of discrimination and solution of correction. Finally, talking about the plans, the law number 62/2070 of 1st of August established the regime of the balanced representation between women and men in the administrative and supervisory bodies of the entities of the public sector and listed companies, and also the normative order number 18 of 2019. From 2018 onward, it is a mandatory to fulfill a minimum share of the less represented sex on the boards of directors and supervisory bodies of the state-owned companies and at listed companies. In the state-owned companies, at least 33.3% of the positions on the boards of directors and supervisory bodies have to file it by women. In listed companies, the minimum is 20% in 2018 and rises to 33.3% in January of 2020. If the minimum threshold of women and men in boards is not met, the law provides for sanctions. As you can see, from 2019 to 2023 was a very slight increase in the number of women in the executive bodies of listed companies. On the one hand, in the public sector, we continue to have more men and in senior management, and on the other hand, there are more women in middle management positions. The law also requires state-owned companies and listed companies to draw up annual equality plans and publish them on their websites. The equality plans must follow what is foreseen in the document guide for the elaboration of equality plans. Last year, CIT created the portal for equality at labor and companies with the aim to facilitate the preparation and submission of the annual equality plans. To have access, companies need to register and gives guidance to prepare equality plans complying with the requirements and deadlines in force. With this project to create the portal, last year CIT received as a distinction the Co-Innovation Award awarded by Quigest. The annual equality plans have to be sent to the Commission for Equality in Labor and Employment, CIT, and to the Commission for Citizenship and Gender Equality, CIG. CIT may issue and publish recommendations on the plans. The recommendations on the plans can address the equality plan structure, the set out of the equality plan objectives and strategies, and the coherence and adequacy of the measures, actions, and practices adopted to achieve the objectives. Well, these are the organizations required to submit plans for equality every year. We have the total number of organizations by sector below. And then we have the evolution of the number of plans for equality presented for 2020 to 2022. Below, we have the number of recommendations that CIT issued in. Finally, key challenges in the measure. First, make companies to draw up their equality plans since there are no censures for compliance with the law. Show companies that carry out a self-diagnosis and in terms of gender equality and draw up an equality plan with strategies and actions to intervene in various dimensions of the company is an opportunity to improvement. Make companies look at equality plans as a strategic instrument for promoting gender equality in companies and for improving human resources management. Companies to effectively take in its recommendations. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Carla, for giving us insight into CITES in internal affairs as to how it monitors the existence and implementation of equality plans. And it is one of the examples that monitoring is undertaken by an agency under the ministry and not an equality body. So thank you so much. Our next panelist will be Kim Smuter, Director of European Network Against Racism, and he will be joining us online. So Kim, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And I apologize for not being there. I wish I wasn't listening because I think it would have been much nicer. Here in Brussels at the moment, it's thunderstorms and everything. So it's really not so much inspiring way to begin. I wanted to first of all thank Equinet for the opportunity to speak to you today, a little bit about kind of what the European Network Against Racism is actually doing in this context. And when we saw the program, we felt that some of the work that we're actually doing to build bridges between civil society and the private sector could be very relevant to your conversations today. And I hope that you will agree once you have heard my presentation. I don't have slides, but hopefully you'll be able to follow what I have to say. I wanted to bring us back to essentially to Lawrence's opening words and opening remarks. And he highlighted the importance, first of all, of equality mainstreaming, but also of equality plans being an effective tool, but only if they are not tick box exercises. And for us, when we created the program that we established to create bridges between civil society and the private sector, that was very much the same kind of ethos which really drove that particular project and which is really inspiring the continued work in this space. So we're very excited to be able to share that with you in the hope that it inspires yourselves as you try to mainstream equality plans to potentially adopt similar approaches. The Equal at Work program essentially was established in 2009 by the European Network Against Racism, so the voice of anti-racist movements in Brussels. We represent around 150 organizations across Europe. And really, the purpose of the Equal at Work program was essentially to try to support organizations and businesses to ensure that their diversity and inclusion programs were much more ambitious and also were much more reflecting the actual needs of the interested communities. So we felt that there was a lot of work being done on diversity and inclusion, which were very much not necessarily reflecting the best practices which were emerging from the anti-racist movement. And this was for us a way to really mainstream our advocacy agenda with partner companies. And I'm really pleased that one of our Equal at Work partners, in fact, is present in the room. So IKEA is in fact one of our 10 Equal at Work partners working with us to try to advance these kinds of issues. I perhaps want to talk a little bit about how Equal at Work works first, and then talk a little bit about what I think are some of the important dimensions that Equinet and indeed equality bodies should be thinking about as they try to build bridge between the different sectors to ensure that equality plans are first of all known by organizations, but also known by the general public, so that they really have some bite to them. Because if plans are unknown to everybody else, they become nice pieces of paper where we self-congratulate, but in fact, the lived experiences of the individuals that are experiencing discrimination really does not change. And that, I think, is really what should be at the core of the work that we do. Equal at Work, in terms of how it works, essentially partner organizations become member organizations of the Equal at Work partnership. And what they do in essence is that they are supported by ENAR and its members as they kind of reflect on the diversity and inclusion measures. We provide also training for their staff members as well as for the C-suite to try to ensure that essentially the work that they're doing on diversity and inclusion really reflects the best practices that we know ourselves from being the advocates of the anti-racist movement. We also organize throughout the year as well opportunities and spaces essentially for communities of practices to emerge, which combine both the knowledge and the experiences of civil society organizations with the needs, in essence, and the expectations of businesses. And I think that's a really interesting piece of work. And the seminars that are really organized on the basis of what private sector identifies as being the core needs. And so we heard a little bit earlier in the event that we were talking about equality data collection. And here, I think this is one example of, in fact, how Equal at Work works. So we're organizing in a few weeks' time a session which is looking specifically at equality data collection, bringing together both the opinion and polling sector as well as civil society organizations to talk about how equality data collection can actually happen. And I think here what's interesting is as well that this is a topic which comes back again and again. And I think also the role of data protection authorities and the role that they play in interpreting data protection legislation can have a real strong impact above and beyond also what statistical officers are doing. So I think here there's definitely a piece of work and a collaboration opportunity which we certainly have identified through our Equal at Work partnership, but I think Equinet as well can have a real strong role to play with regards to that. For us also, I think so we organize seminars, we organize training sessions. We're also in essence a resource point or a contact point in essence for companies to come and have a safe conversation about what essentially they struggle with. And this is kind of an important thing which I think we certainly play within the Equal at Work partnership, but I think if Equinet and equality bodies want to play a similar role at the national level, I think it's really important to create that safe space where these questions can be raised in a safe manner, and also where expertise from those who are experiencing discrimination can also be brought to bear. I think then one of the important elements to think about, particularly with regards to the equality plans, is how do we bridge essentially the gaps between the different experiences. So, and what I mean by that is that each sector comes with its own preconceptions, comes with its own challenges, and actually we spend a lot of time building those bridges between kind of the gaps of understanding, I would say. So it's really about building an understanding of what do we mean, for example, in our case, what do we mean by systemic racism? What do we mean when we want to address systemic racism, and why do we address it in a particular way? And then business is coming back with, well, it's great that you're thinking in this way, but in our organization, the way it actually gets rolled out is very different. And I think the building and the bridging of understanding here is really important. The other thing which we have really kind of discovered through the Equal at Work partnership is also the importance of building structured dialogues. And I think here again, equality bodies play a really strong role in ensuring that we have essentially opportunities and create spaces where catalytic activities can take place, which brings together organizations and essentially, first of all, raises awareness that equality plans exist, raises awareness about what equality plans can and cannot do for the partners, which would be part of such a structured dialogue, but also it creates an opportunity for that sharing of knowledge and that's raising awareness and that maintaining, in essence, this particular topic at the highest levels of the political agenda as well as the highest levels of the corporate agenda. And I think for us, these are things which are absolutely critical and important to think about when designing these types of programs. For us as well, one of the things which we've identified within ENAR, and it's also one of the reasons why I was recently appointed to be director of ENAR, is also that our Equal at Work program has been very much focused on the HR function. So it's been very much focused around the diversity and inclusion agenda and very much kind of shoehorned within diversity and inclusion efforts within companies. What we're going to try to do kind of moving forward is how do we ensure that essentially as part of equality mainstreaming, we're also supporting organizations to mainstream that into their own business operations. So that means going really beyond the HR function, but also looking at the marketing function, looking at operations, looking at logistics, looking at the C-suite, and identifying ways in which we can also create similar communities of practice that are not focused on the HR function, but which think about as well the kind of the whole business aspects. So from the supply chain, all the way to the implementation, all the way to the sales, all the way to the marketing, that all of these aspects should also form part and parcel of an equality plan, and that the indicators shouldn't be just focused indeed on just employment aspects. So whilst it's great that statistics show, gender pay is the same, it's also about identifying whether the lived experiences across all the different functions is also, being improved as a result of these activities. So these are all aspects in essence, which we've identified within the Equal at Work partnership, which I think could be interesting takeaways for equality bodies. And as we are in the process of essentially evaluating where we take the Equal at Work program, I think here we again have opportunities to work together and to build bridges together in order to ensure that the work that we've been speaking about throughout the morning really gets infused and really gets mainstream, so that all the individuals, and particularly those which are affected by discrimination, are aware that these plans exist, are aware that they create binding requirements on their employers, and that they're able to raise awareness to equality bodies if such things are not happening in the ground. I want to conclude with one aspect, and I think this is something which Madame Renard highlighted, but also I think which Matti also highlighted, and that was really the importance of shared ownership and shared accountability. And I think here this is again a really important dimension which we have also identified, that it's very important for the organizations involved not to necessarily see this as an imposed element, so that in order to prevent this from becoming a tick box exercise, we have to find a way to remove the conversation from it just being a compliance only exercise, but really being an exercise about how do we elevate the practices within organizations in order to achieve this higher societal objective of creating an inclusive Europe, which ensures that particularly in the place of work, that inclusion is mainstream to all involved and all stakeholders. So I might stop here so that we have time for conversation, and I know that we're running out of time, but I just wanted to say that I thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you today, that I look very much forward to working with you in order to ensure that indeed, and as far as the civil society organizations are concerned, that we're effective allies in ensuring that these bridges are built, and that we ensure that in the context of a strong bridge, that all of the pillars that are required to make a bridge successful are actually strong and actually working in concert. So thank you very much, and look forward to the Q&A.
Thank you, Kim, so much. It was really important to mention your enormous experience in supporting business in equality mainstreaming and equality planning process. And it was also important to mention the role of equality bodies in creating a forum for dialogue between, for example, duty bearers and activists. So our next panelist for this session is Dalia Paula, Municipal Director for Municipality of Lul in Portugal. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. In behalf of the Municipality of Lole, I want to thank SIG and Equinet to inviting us to share a little bit of our work, because it's just part of the work we do now in these matters. I start with an overview of our employees, because we choose to share with you only or the internal part of our work, because we work also like Matosinhos with the communities, but we share here only the inside part of this work in Equal Plan. We have 2,000 employees on December 2021, 63% of women out of the total number of employees. Okay. We start this work with an internal program only from the municipality in 2019. We call it Employee Wellness Program. And then we joined the Work, Family and Personal Life Balance Pact, a government work, family and personal life balance program, Portugal, of course. And in 2020, we had the certification of Lole City Council, and it was and it still is important for us, this certification, because it is important in our daily life and our daily life work. Oops. How we came up with these initiatives and how we came up with this work. First of all, we need it because we have an active listening to workers, to managers of our council, and it's important for us to work and to design measures from that active listening. And we analyze the world reality of work. It was important for us to have in these two documents that I bring here to you, the numbers of European Agency for Safety and Health at Work, and the study Happiness Works Portugal from 2015. And who and how we consulted, first of all, our employees with interviews, inquiries, informal talks, every day and every hour. We listen. And of course, the union for us, the unions, for us, it's a partner, an important partner also, and we meet with them and we listen them and their proposals. And local and regional persons and institutions like CCDR Algarve. Then SIG came to our lives, and it's a happy time when we did the protocol for equality and non-discrimination with SIG, because it obliges to do things in another way, in a better way, in a almost daily way, and it's very important for us. I think it was a good step in our municipality, this protocol. Then we constitute, it's an obligation of the protocol. We have now, since 2021, the equality local lifetime. It's a team that works every month, that meet every month, and we have a lot of work doing, and I do not share here because I don't have time. And we have the 2 local counselors for equality, an oblige of the protocol also, an internal counselor and an external counselor. And since 2001, we share our practice with other national municipalities, because it's very important for us to listen other experiences and to learn with them. And in 2022, we had already do the diagnosis report for the preparation of local municipality plan for equality and non-discrimination. I only like to share you a few measures already implemented. For us, it's very important in all aspects and matters, but in the equal plan also the internal training. We have an intensive internal planning in the municipality of Lolé, and with the forecasting of various trainings actions related to the theme of equality between women and men in this case. We did the celebration for the Municipality Equality Day in 2021. We did 4 actions: a walk for equality, cinema sections with high school students. It was a great moment to share the thinking about our students and to bring them these matters that we think it's very important for daily life society. We had actions in the library also, book highlighting and storytelling sessions related to the theme equality between women and men. And it was a very important action, displacing billboards in high schools to engage students on the topics of equality, because after that we study the things that the students wrote there, and it was amazing that we did a lot of things with their messages. Then Lolé City Council's policy work for work, family and personal life balance is based on following commitments. I already share before, but I just to ensure here: promote work, family and personal life balance measures aiming to improve well-being and quality of life, contribute to well-being, satisfaction and productivity of our employees, involve stakeholders continuously, establish and maintain internal and external communication challenge. For us is very important, this one, and subscribes to equality and non-discrimination as struggling principle. The way and the ways, better saying, we communicate our initiative. It's a plural one, inside and outside the municipality. We have emails address and internet space for these projects. We have newsletters, leaflets, suggestion boxes, and we have a manual of the worker that have information and do awareness actions conscientiously. We publish also information about the project in the municipal bulletin. It's for the community, and the specific conference and workshops. As I told you before, we did our annual report with the contributions of the employees and the institution. It's a big report, almost 200 pages, and I only choose this one to share here with you. We have 77% of workers feel heard and involved, and we have 87% workers that think this conciliation system is improved, conciliation between personal, familiar, and professional life. And 82% of workers consider that the information about conciliation is clear and sufficient. And 86% of the workers are satisfied. We are not satisfied because we want more and we want to involve more. And I want to say that these are great numbers, but it's we had less numbers in 2020, and we are satisfied for that, but we still work to have more and more involvement and engagement with our employees and with our stakeholders and partners. It's just one of the comments from our employees. My deepest thanks to all those who work to ensure that these measures reach us employees, and I accept that motivates us even more in our daily work in this council. We learn that if people are happy, work are more happier, and we do better work for our municipality. We work for them in a better way. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dalia, so much. It was really...
Sorry. I have to leave now because I have another conference in a few minutes.
Okay, and thank you.
Any question? Can send to sit.
Yeah, I think we can communicate later, right? If there are any questions. Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I really have to leave.
Yeah, thank you, Carla. Thank you. And thank you, Dalia, for sharing really useful information as to how the municipality is engaged in the equality planning, including diagnosis of the situation, external and internal communication strategies, and so on. And it was really important to mention that you also provide annual reports on this things you do throughout the year. So thank you so much. And our last panelist today is, and we have again Ana Lite Mateo, Assistant Deputy Director General from Institute of Spain. And so Ana, the floor is yours again.
Thank you. I will try to be very brief this time. So building bridges. We have been talking this morning about the importance of making contact and involve with all the relevant stakeholders at the private sector, in the public sector. We have been talking about collaborated with employees, employers, worker representatives, citizens in general, and with public bodies, what we can do. So we have been talking about providing advice and expertise, provided training, awareness raising, advice, lobbying, and accompanying all those sectors. I'm going to focus now. I don't know if you can see the presentation, but well, if not, it doesn't matter. I can go on. I would like to focus on, it's not there. Yeah, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I can continue. So I'm going to focus now in our collaboration within the public sector. As the equality body, as the Institute of Women, we have been working in the third plan for gender equality in the general state administration and its public bodies. But also we have been very much involved in the development of the strategic plan for effective equality between women and men 2022-2025, which is, this strategic plan was approved by the Council of Ministers to make the Internal Women's Day this year, and is the government and public administration roadmap to deploy gender equality policies. So what has been our role? This strategic plan has been based in the assessment of the previous strategic plan that has been made by the Institute of Women. And then we have collaborate with the different ministries, departments involved, and also the strategic plan has been consulted within the Women's Council. What are the main lines of this strategic plan? Well, we can talk about 4 main lines of intervention. Firstly, good governance to move towards a more inclusive and democratic model of government, aiming to ensure that all policies are gender sensitive. For instance, what we can find in this first line of intervention, that the personnel that works in the public administration should be trained and should be trained on gender equality and on how to integrate gender equality in all the policies and the actions that are being made. Secondly, we can find the other line, which is economy for life and the fair distribution of wealth against the feminization of poverty and precariousness. We are, the plan here focused very much on achieving decent employment for all women and men, in reducing the gender pay gap and the gender pension gaps, and about promoting policies that will goes to a more shared responsibilities between women and men within the family and in care work. Thirdly, the third line of intervention is related to lives free of violence against women. So aiming to eradicating all kind of violence against women, to strengthen institutional coordination and response and early detection of these situations. And a fourth line of interventions is called A Country with Effective Rights for All Women, and aims to ensure that all women can effectively exercise their rights in all areas of life, including mechanisms to respond to their needs and also for the needs of more vulnerable women. And we are considered here, for instance, women that are maybe suffer multiple discrimination because of their ethnicity, their origin, their sexual orientation, because they live in rural areas, or etc. The strategic plan is based in some principles such as sustainability of life, universality and singularity, gender and intersectional approach, as I was talking before. It's also aligned and it's a complementary to other plans of the administration. So it's aligned with the ODEs and with the Agenda 2030, but also with plans, for instance, related to transport or energy or other kind of policies, state policies. It's based in participation and advocacy, transparency and accountability, and sustainability of equality policies. The plans has 24 specific objectives, 145 operative objectives, and it's integrated by 676 concrete measures aligned with the objectives. The strategic plans also includes what are the departments responsible for the implementation, and also includes some key indicators to be able to be monitored. So what has been our role here in what has been and what is our role as a quality body? As I told you before, we make the prior assessment, so a prior assessment of the previous plan. With this assessment, we share it with all the ministries, and in the different ministry departments, there are equality units where are officials that are trained and gender sensitive and are in charge of the specific measures regarding gender equality and to mainstream gender equality in their policies. So we met with them, we worked with them, we tell them what were the assessment, and then ask them, okay, you now know the situation, so what are you doing and what can you do to improve the situation? So now, once the strategic plan was adopted by the Council of Ministers, now we are in the phase of implementation, and the Institute of Women is in charge of the coordinating the monitoring of the implementation. We have developed like a biannual plan, and we have to develop we will have to develop an interim report. So we are very much in contact with the ministries. We try, they are the responsible for the implementation, but we have a lot to do in pushing them, to encouraging them to implement the measures and adapt the measures during the fourth year period of the plan. And what have we done? Another thing or another example on how can we collaborate as a quality body within the administration. For instance, last year we published a guide to integrate the gender perspective into all policies and practices funded by the Spanish Plan for Recovery, Transformation and Resilience. And this guide is focused in both the public and the private sector. So the guide addressed how administrations can include gender sensitive clauses in public procurement, and also is addressed to private entities that are going to receive the funds, the European funds, to develop different kind of projects. And this guide is translated into English, so I can share with you if you are interested, the link. Thank you very much. That's all.
Thank you, Anna, again for sharing very valuable experience of supporting state agencies in elaborating equality plans, and in mentioning that the importance of assessing the previous plans and like establishing the everything and recent activities on the previous experience as well. So now I think we can pick up a couple of questions, and then I will hand over to Tamas Kadar, if there are any questions.
Thank you. My question is for Dalia. In the survey you do in your municipality to assess the satisfaction of employees, you have sex disaggregated data. And if there is any difference between women and men in the level of satisfaction. And another question is, once again, because we know conciliation measures usually can promote more inequality between women and men, because it's women who tend to use these measures. I would like to ask if you have positive measures to bring men to this part of conciliation. Thank you.
So please,
Sure. Thank you for your questions. Yes, we did this. We have the numbers, and I am pleasure to share with you the annual report with all the numbers. And you are right in your statement, because conciliation measures in the first time women are more awareness for the measures, because we have a lot of men that don't have we have the measure for women's and for men's, but women's use it more. Yes, men's are shy to use measures for kids, to use measures for, we have measures for the anniversary of the children, and we realized that not only, but almost women use it, not the men, to have the day off for the children. Yes, but we are awareness of that, and we all the years we try to transmit to our men colleagues the importance of their conciliations of the work and family life. But it's not easy, and it's a cultural question, and we have to do a lot of sensibilization work to improve the measures, and to have the measures equally to women, use it to women and to men. Yes, it's a good question, because we already feel that, and we already do measures to do things different, and to have men with their children also in their familiar life. Yes.
Thank you, Dalia. I think we can, yes, there is one more question, please. Yeah.
My name is Alison. I come from the Commission for the Rights of Persons with Disability in Malta. I have more of a comment. It was very interesting to listen to all the quality planning that the organizations talked about this morning. I think one of the things that I'm going to take back with me is how important it is to have intersectionality in our equality work that we do, because it would add a lot to the work that we already do if we just don't look at people as being, for example, women, but as also, for example, they could have disabilities, and also the LGBTIQ communities as well. So I'm very interested to learn more about the intersectionality work that we do and how we can collaborate together. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. So would someone comment, or okay, if not, then I can, yeah, we can finalize our conference. So thanks to all the panelists for your interesting and very inspiring speeches. And now I'd like to hand over to Tamas Kadar, a co-director of Equinet.
Thank you very much, Betty. I know it's not for me. Thank you to the panelists. Really, it was very interesting. So I'll try to be brief. Just a couple of thoughts, takeaways. I try to cluster them in 4 groups. So first of all, why do we have equality plans? And I think that we heard that it's a key tool for mainstreaming. It can have a transformative potential. It has a transformative potential for society and also for the organizations that introduce them. It promotes diversity, it creates better working conditions for everyone, and it also provides and offers a better knowledge about the organization to the decision makers, to the organization itself and its leaders. We heard that it's also good for business, and of course it's also important, and it's kind of an obligation to mirror society. We heard that, and the equality plans can help to do that. So that was the why. Then how to do a good equality plan? I think it was underlined very early on today that it should be a process and not just an afterthought. So it should be integrated in the thinking about it. It shouldn't be a tick box exercise. And the equality considerations should be integrated in all the activities of the organization. And it should be systematic, therefore. We should think about a cycle. So it's not just a one shot at writing something and then forgetting about it. It's a cycle of development, design, then implementation, monitoring, and also adapting, because we also know and heard and discussed that organizations change during the times. I'm sorry, I'm showing my back to Dalia. And so then we also heard that it's very important to build bridges between all the actors that we heard about today, from duty bearers to the clients and customers, the workers, to civil society, and the equality bodies as well can play a very important role as part of that process and also creating those bridges. I think there are some really, I didn't hear that word, but I think there are some really important questions about the sustainability of equality plans. And I think that it's a question about, the risk of political cycles. The commitment may be there on one day, but in a year later, it might disappear in thin air. It's a question of not enough resources, and it's also a question of not enough commitment, of course. So these are all very important aspects. This is the how to do a good equality plan. My third point was about the needs. So what do we need actually to have these equality plans in place? We need leadership and commitment. We need preferably a legal duty. It's not always there, and of course it can be voluntary, but I think it's in many instances it's probably more powerful and more effective if there is a legal duty, and if possible it should come with sanctions, because I think that can also it can also help. And that's not to undermine the importance of voluntary measures, which I think are crucial, but I think down the line, if we want to have everyone on board and have equality plans everywhere, it's, I think, also important to have legal duties and sanctions if they don't appear. Data is also very important to underpin the equality plans. We also heard about the difficulty of getting sometimes these data, especially when it relates to particularly sensitive types of data, such as race or ethnic origin. Then we also know that it is important to have clear objectives and clear processes to reach those objectives. Sufficient resources. I don't think I have to explain why they are necessary. Capacity building, and this is something where equality bodies can play an important role. Then strong cooperation between the partners, that was already mentioned when I talked about the building bridges. And of course, it's also very important to make all colleagues, clients, customers, whoever are the beneficiaries or any kind of players in the equality plan, it's important to let them know and make them aware, just so that they use whatever is at their disposal in the equality plan. And my last point is about the role of equality bodies here. And I think there was a really interesting trichotomy of the roles that equality bodies can play. First of all, they can be leaders. They can lead by example. We heard examples of that, equality bodies introducing equality plans. They can, of course, give advice. That's their second important role. They can do that by training, by building capacity, by commenting, by providing guidance, even just promoting equality duty, by being part of the diversity charters, for instance, and promoting it to companies that are also part of that. We heard that there might be some possible hiccups and complications in equality bodies or for equality bodies that may find it difficult to give advice in cases where they also have to monitor later on, and they perhaps also have to sanction, because, you know, if they give advice, then it might be difficult to monitor and sanction something that was built partly, at least, on their advice. So that's the advice. And then the third one is monitoring, which is also very important. And we heard about really interesting tools for that, from questionnaires to assessment tools and really important things. And I also wanted to mention that, of course, for all these things, to make sure that equality bodies are able to do these, they need to have the right mandates, the right powers, the sufficient resources, and the adequate levels of independence. So this is just to underline why it is really important, and why, as everything, this is also linked with the standards for equality bodies and the ongoing legislative process. So this is my very short and entirely inadequate summary of this morning. I found it really interesting. And the last 2 minutes are really, well, first of all, just to ensure everyone that the PowerPoints will be sent to all those who signed up. So you will receive them. In exchange, we ask you to fill in the evaluation forms. So you don't get the PowerPoints if you don't fill in the evaluation form or something. And the last minutes are for thanking everyone. So all the speakers, the participants, our technical support guys, for coming along with us in this journey of our first big in-person conference since 2019. That was really great. To our members and co-hosts from ACM and Vera in particular, and CIG and Carla in particular, and also, of course, the Equinet crew who are here, and Sophie, Yone, Teresa in particular, but really everyone. So this is it from me, I think. Thank you very much. We are ending behind schedule, but I hope you don't mind too much. Thank you.